Welcome to AI Otaku Studio. Like, subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 26, Official Cheats, 3 Major Benefits. It is good that you have this resolve. Lei Chen nodded slightly, his tone calm but carrying a hint of a reminder. However, there is one thing I must inform you of in advance. His gaze swept over the shimmering angelic sacred sword in Yigui's hand as he continued. Without this sword, after you slay an evil soul master, most of the purification power generated would feed back into yourself, helping your spirit power cultivation grow rapidly. But now, since the Holy Sword has recognized you as its master, this purification power will be absorbed by it first to repair itself and awaken its divinity. This means that in the future, the speed at which you increase your spirit power through purging evil will be far inferior to before. Your cultivation path will, to a large extent, need to return to tradition, relying on your own meditation and accumulation. Your progress may be much slower. Do you understand? Hearing this, Yigui did not hesitate for a moment. She nodded firmly, her deep blue eyes clear and bottomless, showing no grade or regret. This junior understands. Compared to awakening the Holy Sword and restoring the glory of the angel, the speed of personal cultivation is insignificant. As for spirit power cultivation, I will naturally practice diligently and improve step by step. I have no complaints. Her voice was crisp and decisive, carrying a sense of responsibility and open-mindedness that transcended her age. Lei Chen smiled with satisfaction upon hearing this. He needed a god-position reforger with such a steadfast character. Good, since you have such determination, I shall lend you another helping hand and grant you 3 major benefits, so that you may walk more steadily and further on this path. Before his voice had even faded, Lei Chen raised his hand and gave a light beckon toward the void. The space in front of him distorted slightly, and a peculiar immortal grass manifested out of thin air, floating in midair. This immortal grass was pure white like jade, as if carved from the finest mutton fat white jade. It emitted soft and pure energy fluctuations all over its body, as if it had condensed the purest essence of heaven and earth. This was exactly the primal chaos immortal herb, grown in the ice and fire yin-yang well by absorbing the essence of heaven and earth. This is the primal chaos immortal herb, Lei Chen introduced. It can directly increase your spirit power level and can also greatly compress the spirit power within your body, doubling its total amount and making your foundation incredibly stable. Consuming it will not only allow your spirit power foundation to far exceed spirit masters of the same level, but it will also lay the most solid foundation for you to condense a soul core in the future. Lei Chen continued, your sacred angel martial soul is currently in a 2-winged form. Once you break through level 90 and condense your first soul core, your spirit will evolve and transform into the more powerful seraphim. But if you have this primal chaos immortal herb to solidify your foundation and compress your spirit power, it will allow you to condense your first soul core early at the level 70 spirit saint realm. At that time, your spirit will evolve into a seraphim ahead of schedule, and your strength will surely undergo a qualitative leap. This will be of great benefit to your future purging of evil and the awakening of the Holy Sword. Hearing this, an amazing brilliance erupted in Yigui's beautiful eyes. Condensing a soul core at level 70 and evolving her spirit early, this was simply an opportunity she had only dreamed of. She suppressed the excitement in her heart and respectfully extended both hands. Thank you for your generous gift, Senior. The primal chaos immortal herb drifted lightly into her palm, feeling warm to the touch as if it possessed a spirit of its own. Immediately after, Lei Chen flicked his finger, and a tiny 7-colored stream of light containing supreme authority shot out, silently sinking into the back of Yigui's right hand. Yigui only felt a slight heat on the back of her hand. Looking down, she saw an extremely complex and profound 7-colored runic mark quietly emerge, imprinted on her skin as if it were natural. After a slight flicker, it disappeared, but she could clearly perceive its existence. The primal chaos immortal herb is the first benefit for you. The second is this mark, Lei Chen said. With this mark, you can freely enter and exit the core area of the Stardew Great Forest, and no spirit beast will stop you. When you need to obtain a spirit ring in the future, you can go to the Stardew Great Forest, find a spirit beast you like, and simply imprint its skill. Imprint, Yigui caught this unfamiliar term, and a look of obvious doubt appeared on her pretty face. The knowledge she had accepted since childhood was to hunt spirit beasts and absorb spirit rings. What was this imprinting all about? Lei Chen smiled faintly and explained, Not long ago, I modified the basic rules of this world. From now on, the death of a spirit beast will no longer produce a spirit ring. If a spirit master needs to advance, they must communicate with a spirit beast through spirit power, and via the method of imprinting, obtain skills from it to condense a spirit ring. There is no longer any need for slaughter. What? Hearing this, Yigui's delicate body shook, her pupils suddenly contracted, and her beautiful face was filled with incomparable shock. Modifying the rules of the plane. What kind of heaven-defying means was this? The senior before her could actually do something like changing the world and reshaping the cultivation system. This had completely exceeded her imagination. She had originally thought Lei Chen was a hidden powerhouse with unfathomable strength, but now it seemed this senior was likely countless times stronger than she had imagined. Seeing Yigui so shocked she was speechless, Lei Chen only smiled slightly and continued, "The great beasts of the Stardew Great Forest already know of this and will cooperate. When the time comes, whichever spirit beast's skill you take a fancy to, you only need to show this mark, and they will naturally allow you to perform the imprinting." Yigui worked hard to digest this earth-shattering information. After a long time, she took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Yes, this junior will keep it in mind." As for this third benefit, as Lei Chen spoke, he slowly raised his hand, his index finger shimmering with a deep seven-colored light, and lightly tapped Yigui's smooth forehead. Yigui felt a coolness at her brow, and a vast and strange flow of information instantly flooded into her mind. It did not bring any discomfort. Instead, it felt as if it had been there since birth. In the next moment, her vision seemed to instantly elevate infinitely, then covered their entire Douluo. Countless points of light, some bright and some dim, appeared in her perception like stars. These light points varied in size and brightness, yet each one emitted an evil aura. Clearly, each light point represented an evil soul master. Then she instantly understood. The larger and brighter the light point, the stronger the evil soul master's strength and the deeper their sins. Their precise locations, and even their specific movement trajectories, were presented in her perception in real time. Yigui was once again stunned by this miraculous method. All the evil soul masters in the world were like fireflies in the dark night, with nowhere to hide before her. This third benefit is the real-time positioning of all evil soul masters on the Douluo. Lei Chen withdrew his finger, his tone still calm, as if he had only done a trivial matter. In this way, looking for prey will no longer be like searching for a needle in a haystack. You can more efficiently purify evil and awaken the holy sword. Chapter 27, Plain God-Level Powerhouse Training Plan. Yigui touched the lingering coolness on her forehead, feeling the clear evil soul master distribution map in her mind. The excitement and gratitude in her heart were beyond words. The primal chaos immortal herb to solidify her foundation, the imprint to freely copy soul skills, the real-time positioning of evil soul masters. The three major benefits bestowed by this senior were each heaven-defying, completely clearing the obstacles on her path and turning her path of purging evil into a smooth heavenly path. She bowed deeply again, her voice trembling slightly with emotion, yet filled with incomparable determination. "Senior, Guyi will never forget your help. Guyi will do her utmost to purify evil, awaken the angelic sacred sword, and restore the light of the angel." Feeling the heartfelt gratitude and unwavering conviction in Yigui's gaze, Lei Chen nodded. "Go, your path has only just begun." The purpose of this appearance had been achieved, and Yigui, this important puzzle piece, was now in place. In the next moment, Lei Chen's figure faded and vanished silently like sunlight, without causing the slightest spatial fluctuation, as if he had never appeared. At the edge of the forest, the clearing returned to silence, leaving only Yigui. She gripped the angelic sacred sword in her hand, and looked at the primal chaos immortal herb in her other hand. Feeling the incredibly clear evil soul master positioning array map in her mind, and the mark hidden on the back of her hand, she took a deep breath. She bowed solemnly again in the direction where Lei Chen had disappeared. Her gaze then became sharp, and without further delay, she flashed away to find a hidden spot, preparing to immediately consume the immortal grass and increase her strength. Meanwhile, in the sea of plain origin of the Douluo Plane, Lei Chen had quietly returned. Vast seven-colored light surrounded him, and every subtle pulse of the entire plane was clearly reflected in his heart. His gaze swept across the Douluo, watching Yigui begin to refine the primal chaos immortal herb, her aura steadily rising. He nodded slightly while pondering to himself. On Yigui's side, things are basically settled. The secrets that needed to be told and the help that needed to be given have all been delivered. She has already stepped onto the path of reforging the angel god position, and she's made a good start. However, comparing the plan to reforge the angel god position with the reforging of the Snow Empress's ice god divine seat, Lei Chen couldn't help but shake his head slightly. The difference in difficulty between the two was like heaven and earth. On the Snow Empress's side, it could be said that the time, place, and people were all in her favor. She was the ruler of the far north herself, with a cultivation level at the peak of 690,000 years, and was naturally a perfect fit for the ice god divine seat. Heaven and earth treasures like the 10,000-year profound ice marrow, which could directly increase cultivation, were enough for her to use until the million-year mark. Furthermore, she had the heart of the ice god, an inheritance item containing the origin divine power of the ice god. All she needed to do next was to cultivate step by step, cross tribulations, and absorb the 10,000-year profound ice marrow while nurturing the heart of the ice god. Once her cultivation broke through the million-year mark and her life level leaped, reforging the ice god divine seat would be a natural progression, with almost no bottlenecks or accidents. On the other hand, things were much more troublesome for Yigui. Her path of reforging centered on judgment and purification. She needed to continuously hunt evil soul masters and use their massive evil energy as nourishment to gradually awaken the divine sword and regather the god position. The variables involved were much greater. Setting aside whether Yigui could defeat powerful evil soul masters every time during her growth, from the perspective of total resources alone, there was a fatal problem. Although evil soul masters on today's Douluo were rampant and had formed a tumor like the Holy Spirit cult, in Lei Chen's view, their quality and quantity were probably far from enough to support the purification power required to reforge a first-rank god position. Lei Chen's perceptions spanned the Douluo, and he knew the high-end combat power of the evil soul masters like the back of his hand. There was only one level 99 limit Douluo, the Holy Spirit cult's supreme elder Yigui. There was only one level 98, the cult leader Jangli Wu. Further down, the titled Douluo level evil soul masters could be counted on one's fingers. Most were spirit Douluos, spirit saints, or even lower-level small fry. Relying on the energy produced by purifying these guys to awaken the angelic sacred sword and reforge the angel god position, which was at the level of a first-level god, was simply a drop in the bucket. The premise for quantitative change to lead to qualitative change is that the quantity must be large enough. Given the current foundation of evil soul masters, even if Yigui killed them all, it's estimated that at most she could only restore half of the angelic sacred sword's power. It was still a long way from complete awakening and reforging the god position. In Lei Chen's view, to achieve the goal, at least one or two evil soul masters, with a cultivation level reaching the god level, would need to be purified. Using their massive evil origin as an impact might barely qualify to trigger the opportunity for reforging the angel god position. But the problem was in the current Douluo Plane. Where would god-level evil soul masters come from? If there truly weren't any, then he could only cultivate them himself. Thinking of this, Lei Chen's deep gaze immediately looked toward a certain corner of the Douluo Plane. Before Yigui truly grows up and has the strength to challenge god-level existences, I must first prepare enough sacrificial offerings for her, cultivating one or two god-level evil soul masters. When the time is ripe, I'll let her go and harvest them. Forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Since he had already decided to cultivate god-level powerhouses, it wouldn't hurt to cultivate a few more while he was at it. If you're herding one sheep, you might as well herd two. Evil soul masters need to be cultivated, but orthodox spirit master powerhouses also need strong support. The current human spirit master world is really too weak. Lei Chen's will swept across their entire Douluo. The number of top powerhouses among human spirit masters made him, the Plane Master, truly dissatisfied. In the current Douluo Plane, there were only 3 level 99 limit Douluos: the dragon god Douluo Muen of Shrek Academy, the supreme elder Yigui of the Holy Spirit cult, and the chief enshrined elder Long Xiaorao. All told, there were only 3. There were also only 3 level 98 super Douluos who were close to the limit: Xuanzai, Du Busi, and Jangli Wu. Compared to the vast plane, the potential of this number of high-end combatants had clearly far from being truly developed. In the eyes of Lei Chen, the supreme existence in charge of a world, given the scale of the current Douluo Plane, the number of powerhouses within it should logically be far more than this. There should be at least double digits of level 99 limit Douluos, and there should be several powerhouses capable of touching the threshold of the god level, or even truly entering it. That would be normal. This current handful of people was truly too pathetic. With this thought, Lei Chen immediately made a decision. Reforging god positions was of course crucial, but the cultivation of god-level powerhouses without god positions could not be ignored either. It just so happened that while preparing the sacrificial offerings for Yigui to reforge her god position, he could also give a few pointers to those other limit or near-limit fellows. Chapter 28 Undead Space, Summoning the 7 Powerhouses. After deciding to cultivate several native god-level powerhouses for the Douluo Plane, Lei Chen wasted no more time. His consciousness instantly sank into the plane's origin, locking onto the undead demi-plane that had perfectly merged with the Douluo Plane. Now, this domain that once belonged to Electrolux had become a unique subsidiary space of the Douluo Plane. The aura of death and eternal loneliness permeating within was perfectly suited as the venue for this audience, mysterious and intimidating enough. Lei Chen's intent was like an invisible giant net, covering the entire Douluo in an instant, directly locking onto the 7 existences with the most powerful auras. 3 level 99 limit Douluos, Mu N of Shrek, Yigui and Long Zairai of the Holy Spirit cult, and 3 level 98 super Douluos, Xuanzai of Shrek, Debussy of the Body Sect, and Jangli Wu of the Holy Spirit cult. After a brief moment of contemplation, Lei Chen's gaze landed on someone within the Sun Moon Empire, Kong Deming, who despite having only level 95 spirit power, possessed combat strength comparable to a limit Douluo thanks to the class 10 spirit tool, the Silver Moon Divine Light Shield. It shall be these 7. With a thought from Lei Chen, the authority of the plane master was activated silently. In the undead demi-plane, the sky held that eternally unchanging, eerie black sun, emitting a ghostly purple light that illuminated the pitch-black earth in a scene of desolate silence. Suddenly, space distorted simultaneously at 7 different locations. In the next moment, 7 figures, bearing expressions of shock and uncertainty, were forcibly pulled from their respective locations by a majestic power they completely could not understand or resist, and were cast into this strange world. Who is it? What sacred being is this? The 7 of them reacted almost at the same time. Majestic spirit power erupted instantly, and brilliant spirit rings rose from beneath their feet, illuminating the deathly silent space with flowing colors. Light radiated from all around Muen, the light holy dragon appearing faintly. The blood-souled demonic puppet beside Yigui was hideous and twisted, emitting a heart-palpitating evil aura. Behind Long Zairai, the darkness holy dragon coiled, exuding a profound majesty. The heavy aura of Xuanzai's gluttonous divine bull spread out. Debussy's body martial soul true body manifested, his muscles knotted and brimming with a sense of power. Behind Jangli Wu, the death god demon puppet emerged, flickering with ghostly light. Although Kong Deming had the lowest spirit power level, several incredibly exquisite spirit tool cores already floated before him, emitting dangerous energy fluctuations. The 7 powerhouses standing at the apex of the Douluo were all on full alert now, their sharp gazes scanning the eerie surroundings and each other. When they clearly saw the people beside them, the shock in their hearts intensified. Shrek, the Body Sect, the Sun Moon Empire, and Evil Soul Masters, almost all the strongest members of the Douluo's top forces, had been forcibly gathered here at the same time. For a moment, no one spoke. The air was thick with extreme tension and suspicion, with only the faint, indistinct roars of the undead coming from the depths of the undead space adding to the eeriness. After the silence and confrontation lasted for about a dozen breaths, Debussy's bell-like giant eyes suddenly locked onto the ethereal-looking and complex-faced Long Zairai. A surge of anger accumulated over decades instantly broke through the dam of his reason. Long Zairai, you despicable villain, give me your life. Debussy roared. He didn't even have time to think about the strangeness of this place, or the source of that irresistible force. His massive body shot out like a cannonball, his fist carrying terrifying power capable of shattering mountains and cracking stones as it aimed straight for Long Zairai's face. He could never forget that it was this man who instigated his elder brother to challenge Mu N years ago, ultimately leading to his brother's fall. This grudge was irreconcilable. Facing Debussy's wrathful strike, a flash of complexity crossed Long Zairai's eyes, yet he did not strike back. He merely shifted his body slightly, seemingly intending to dodge. However, Yi Zishui, who was beside Long Xiaorao, turned cold. She shared a deep relationship with Long Xiaorao. How could she allow someone to strike at him right in front of her? Courting death. Yi Zishui gave a cold snort. Without any visible movement from her, the phantom of the blood-soul demonic puppet expanded. A highly condensed blood-red light, radiating an aura of corrosion and devouring, struck first and met Dubussy's fist. At the same time, seeing his mother take action, a fierce light flashed in Jangli Wu's eyes. The phantom of the death god demon puppet behind him swung out, and a pitch-black death ray, like a venomous snake, silently attacked Dubussy's flank. Boom! Dubussy's fist collided violently with Yi Zishui's blood-red light, producing a dull thud. Although Dubussy's strength was fierce, he was only level 98 after all, whereas Yi Zishui was a level 99 limit Douluo. Her spirit power quality was superior to his. Though the blood light was dispersed, Dubussy's forward momentum was also halted. And just as his old strength was spent, and new strength had yet to rise, Jangli Wu's death ray arrived. Dubussy's face changed drastically. Though he was wild and fierce, he also knew how dangerous it was to face a pincer attack from Yi Zishui and Jangli Wu simultaneously, especially Yi Zishui, whose strength was above his own. In his haste, he could only manage to turn his body slightly, attempting to tank the blow head-on. Just as Debussy was about to suffer a major loss, a gentle yet incredibly solid golden light suddenly flared up, acting like an invisible wall to block Debussy's side. Puff! The death ray struck the golden light and vanished quietly, like a cow made of clay entering the sea. Another thick and overbearing aura intervened at the same time, blocking the path between Debussy and Yi Zishui. A voice said deeply, "Wait, stop your hands." The ones who acted were precisely Mu En and Xuanzai. With Mu En and Xuanzai helping to block, Debussy managed to catch his breath. He retreated several steps, his face turning pale and then flushed. He glared fixedly at Yi Zishui and Jangli Wu, yet he did not dare to strike easily again. Mu En's gaze swept past the anger-filled Debussy and finally landed on the complex-looking Long Xiaorao and the frost-faced Yi Zishui. He sighed softly, his voice hoarse yet carrying a strange, soothing power. Xiaorao Zishui, and sect leader Poison. We have all been forcibly brought here by an irresistible power. The situation is unclear, and it is hard to distinguish friend from foe. Engaging in a private feud here is by no means a wise move. Why not cease for now and first find out which sacred being has gathered the seven of us here? It won't be too late to fight then. What do you all think? Mu En's words were like a gentle pluck on a taut string, temporarily easing the atmosphere of drawn swords and bent bows. Yi Zishui snorted coldly and withdrew her blood-soul demonic puppet. Jangli Wu also gave Debussy a sinister look and ceased his movements. Although Debussy was unwilling, he knew Mu En's words made sense. He gave a muffled snort and restrained his spirit power. The gazes of the seven people once again turned, as if by prior agreement, toward the depths of this eerie space. In the vast and silent undead space, only the ghostly purple skylight remained, enveloping the seven supreme powerhouses of the Douluo, along with the increasingly heavy, supreme majesty originating from the plane's source that permeated the air. Chapter 29, Announcing New Rules, Raising the Plane's Upper Limit. Within the undead space, the confrontation between several of the continent's top powerhouses was temporarily halted due to Mu En's mediation, but the tension and suspicion permeating the air did not dissipate. They all held their breath, alertly sensing any slight movement in this world of dead silence, waiting for the existence that could bring them here, without any power to resist to show itself. In the midst of this oppressive silence, a sudden change occurred. Above the entire undead space, the eternally hanging black sun seemed to dim for a moment. Endless seven-colored light emerged out of thin air from the void, like 10,000 rivers returning to the sea, frantically converging toward an open area in front of everyone. This seven-colored light was not a simple light effect. Every strand was as solid as liquid, flowing with an unspeakable charm of laws, and even emitting energy fluctuations that made all seven people present feel palpitations. Mu En's cloudy eyes suddenly burst with sharp light. Yi Zishui's body under her blood-colored robe tightened slightly. Long Xiaorao's deep pupils contracted. Xuanzai, Debussy, Jangli Wu, condemning. Whether righteous or evil, all of their expressions changed drastically at this moment, and a monstrous wave rose in their hearts. How is this possible? Debussy growled in a lost voice. He felt that even a negligible strand of the seven-colored light in the converging torrent contained an energy level that far surpassed his own as a level 98 super Douluo. The feelings of the three-limit Douluos, Mu-En, Yizishui, and Long Xiaorao, were even clearer and more profound. They already stood at the pinnacle of the human world and considered their cultivation to have reached perfection. However, in the face of these strands of seven-colored light, their spirit power was like a firefly to a bright moon, a stream to a vast ocean. There was a fundamental gap. Every strand is above us. Long Xiaorao's voice was dry. This completely overturned his understanding. All the light converging, this power, Yizishui's fingertips trembled slightly, and an unprecedented fear gripped her heart. She and Jangli Wu looked at each other, both seeing deep terror in the other's eyes. This kind of power was definitely not something that should exist in the human world. Could it be a deity from the god realm descending? If so, with their status as evil soul masters, they might. Just as everyone's minds were shaken and their thoughts were in disarray, the vast and boundless seven-colored light finally condensed into a form. A slender and tall figure quietly emerged. He had black hair and black eyes, and his appearance was extraordinarily handsome. Seven-colored halos naturally flowed around his body, and a purple-gold lightning pattern at the center of his brow added a bit of majesty. He simply stood there without releasing any overbearing pressure, yet the seven people present couldn't help but feel a kind of reverence and oppression originating from the depths of their life's source, as if ants were looking up at a great dragon. That was an absolute gap in the level of life. The atmosphere in the field was so stagnant it seemed about to freeze. Finally, it was Mu-En, who had experienced many vicissitudes and had the most stable temperament, who took a deep breath, forcibly suppressed the shock in his heart, stepped forward, and bowed to the seven-colored figure in an extremely solemn gesture. "Respected, senior, I wonder how we should address you. For what purpose have you summoned us here?" Lei Chen's gaze calmly swept over the seven people, taking in all their reactions before he slowly spoke. His voice was peaceful yet seemed to resonate with the entire world. "I am this world, and this world is me. You may call me the Plane Master." Lei Chen's calm yet supremely majestic words were like thunder from the 9 heavens, exploding in the depths of the souls of the 7 people below. "Plane Master. I am this world, and this world is me." Everyone's brains were working rapidly at this moment, trying to understand the terrifying meaning contained in those short words, which was enough to overturn their lifelong understanding. He wasn't a deity descending from the god realm. He was the embodiment of this plane itself, the worlds well nurtured by the Douluo star, the true ruler of the earth beneath their feet and the sky above their heads. Once this thought arose, it grew wildly like weeds, and the shock it brought was countless times stronger than learning that a deity had descended. Deities were certainly powerful and noble, but to them they were ultimately existences from another world. Whereas the Plane Master, he was this world itself. His will was the law of the world. Thinking of this, the shock in the eyes of the several people present was almost overflowing. In front of such an existence, the strength they had been proud of in the past seemed so small and laughable. Mu-En was the first to recover from the massive shock, and his attitude became even more respectful. He bowed deeply once again. "Respected Plane Master, I wonder what instructions you have for summoning us here." Lei Chen said indifferently, "Naturally, there are matters to inform you of." He paused slightly and continued. "First is the matter of spirit rings, no longer appearing after the fall of spirit beasts recently. I believe you are all already aware of this." Hearing these words, everyone's eyes immediately narrowed, especially Mu-En, Xuanzai Dubuisi, and Kong Deming, who were most concerned about this matter. They had indeed heard reports from their subordinates over the past 2 days that, for some reason, dead spirit beasts suddenly stopped producing spirit rings. They were originally troubled by this, but now it seemed that this matter was likely related to this suddenly appearing Plane Master. This anomaly is neither a disaster nor a misfortune. It is caused by this seat modifying the basic rules of this world. Lei Chen directly revealed the answer. From this day forward, when a spirit beast dies, its origin will return to the world to nourish the plane, and it will no longer be forced to transform into a spirit ring. If you spirit masters wish to advance, you must use the method of skill imprinting to condense a spirit ring from a spirit beast that matches your own attributes. The old habit of hunting spirit beasts to obtain rings is henceforth extinct. This is a move to ensure the continuation of the spirit beast race and maintain the ecological balance of the plane. You must keep this in mind. Learning that the truth was that the plane master had personally modified the rules, Xuanzai, Du Busi, and Kong Deming all showed expressions of realization, and then they all breathed a sigh of relief. Whether it was hunting or imprinting, as long as spirit masters could still continue to obtain spirit rings to advance, and the path of spirit master cultivation was not cut off, it was fine. As for Yigui, Long Xiaorao, and Zhongli Wu, the three of them didn't care much about this information. Anyway, their spirit rings were already complete. Even if spirit beasts never produced spirit rings again in the future, it wouldn't affect them. As for whether the cultivation path of future spirit masters would be cut off, what did that have to do with them? Only Muen bowed once more. Thank you, Plane Master, for informing us of the reason and resolving the doubts in our hearts. The changing of the laws of heaven and earth has its own reason. We shall respectfully follow the will of the plane. Lei Chen nodded slightly, showing approval of Muen's attitude, and then changed the subject, throwing out an even more impactful piece of information. Besides this, there is one more thing. Through this seat's promotion of the plane's evolution, the upper limit of cultivation that this plane can bear has also been increased. As soon as these words were spoken, the pupils of all the powerhouses below suddenly contracted. The upper limit of cultivation has been increased. For the limit Douluos who had been trapped at the level 99 bottleneck for many years, this was no different from a clap of thunder. Chapter 30, Level 109, What is a Demigod? Inside the undead space, it was deathly silent, with only the eerie purple light cast by that black sun casting a mysterious hue over the changing expressions of the 7 powerhouses. Lei Chen's words were like a giant boulder thrown into a calm lake, stirring up stormy waves in their hearts. The upper limit of cultivation that the plane could support had increased. Reaching level 100 and becoming a god was no longer a fleeting dream or an unreachable legend, but had become a path that was theoretically possible. After a brief moment of extreme silence, the first to lose her composure was the supreme elder of the Holy Spirit cult, Yigui. Her deep eyes, which contained a blood-red light, were now burning brightly as she stared intently at Lei Chen's blurred and majestic figure. Her voice carried a trace of imperceptible urgency as she broke the silence. Respected Plane Master, you just said, the upper limit of cultivation that the plane can support has increased. She paused slightly, seemingly organizing her words, and asked the question everyone present was most concerned about. I wonder, to what level specifically has it been raised? Do we really have a chance? She didn't finish her sentence, but her longing for a higher realm and the legendary god-level domain was already fully revealed. Not only her but Muen and Long Xiaorao, those 2 veteran limit Douluos, as well as Xuanzai, Du Busi, Zhongli Wu, and even Kong Deming, who had the lowest spirit power level but reached the combat power of a limit Douluo through spirit tools. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lei Chen, filled with unprecedented fervor and expectation. Seeing Yigui take the initiative to ask, and everyone else looking on with eager anticipation, Lei Chen did not feign depth. He had gathered everyone today precisely to inform them of this matter. Thus, he gave a direct and definitive answer, his voice calm yet sounding like the proclamation of a law. Correct, through my promotion of the plane's advancement, the upper limit of individual power that this plane can now stably support has been raised to level 109. In other words, as long as one has enough talent, perseverance, and opportunity, it is possible to break through the limits of mortality within this world, reach level 100 to become a god, and even climb to the peak of level 109. Level 109. Hearing this definitive answer from Lei Chen's mouth, the breathing of the 7 people present instantly became more rapid, and the light bursting from their eyes almost illuminated the dim space. That was level 100 godhood, surpassing the mortal realm and possessing power that could nearly destroy heaven and earth. This was the ultimate goal that every spirit master on the Douluo dreamed of. Now, this path finally seemed to be laid out before them. However, just as everyone's hearts were surging with emotion, and they were unable to restrain themselves, Lei Chen shook his head slightly, his tone carrying a hint of faint mockery, like cold water being poured over them. However, do not be happy too soon. The increase in the plane's upper limit does not mean you can naturally break through level 100. His gaze swept across the excited crowd, especially the 3 limit Douluos. His words sharp and direct. Do you really think that the reason you were stuck at the peak of level 99 for countless years, unable to make even an inch of progress and failing to break through level 100 to become a god, was purely because the plane's own limit was holding you back. If you truly think so, then you are overestimating yourselves. Lei Chen mercilessly revealed the cruel truth. Even before the plane's advancement, the true limit of this plane was not level 99. The true plane limit was the demigod level. Therefore, the reason you are stagnant at level 99 is simply because your own potential, accumulation, or aptitude can only support you in cultivating to level 99 at most. You can't even touch the threshold of a demigod, let alone a true god level. How can you blame it on the plane's limit? Now, even though the plane has advanced and the upper limit has been raised, providing you with a broader stage, if you cannot complete that critical transformation yourselves, no matter how large the stage is, you will only be able to stay where you are and sigh in despair. As soon as Lei Chen said this, it was like a blow to the head, instantly cooling the excitement of the 7 people. The scene became extremely awkward for a moment. Muen Yizishui and Long Xiaorao, the 3 limit Douluos who had stood at the peak of the Douluo for many years, all felt their faces burning, their expressions filled with embarrassment and a hint of bitterness. How could they not know that the path of cultivation was difficult and that they might have already reached their bottleneck, but being told so bluntly by the plain master that it's your own fault, don't blame the world, still made them feel utterly humiliated. Meanwhile, Xuanzai, Du Busi, and Zhongli Wu, the 3 level 98 super Douluos, were even more embarrassed. They hadn't even crossed the threshold of level 99 yet, so level 100 godhood was naturally even further away. Their previous excitement now seemed more like an overconfident delusion. As for Kong Deming, this Class 9 soul engineer who had reached an alternative limit through wisdom and spirit tools, he was even more speechless at this moment. His own spirit power level had been stuck at level 95 for many years. If not for the Silver Moon Divine Light Shield, he wouldn't even have the qualification to participate in this gathering. Compared to the others, his foundation was even weaker, and the path to level 100 seemed completely cut off from him. Thinking about it this way, whether the plane advanced or not didn't seem to have much to do with them personally. The opportunity was given, but they didn't seem to have the ability to seize it. A sense of powerlessness quietly spread through everyone's hearts. After the awkward silence lasted for a moment, it was Kong Deming, whose own cultivation was the most limited, who was the first to regain his composure. He took a deep breath, suppressed the stray thoughts in his heart, gave a respectful bow to Lei Chen, and asked a key question that echoed the sentiments of all the powerhouses present. Respected Plane Master, you have repeatedly mentioned the demigod realm. Forgive my ignorance, but what is a demigod, and how can one reach such a realm? Has anyone ever reached it in the distant past? Hearing Kong Deming's question, the others also immediately gathered their thoughts, their gazes once again focusing on Lei Chen. Yes, the path ahead was broken because they didn't know where it led. If the Plane Master could point out the direction, then perhaps there was still a glimmer of hope. Lei Chen glanced at Kong Deming, acknowledging his ability to quickly grasp the main point, and then explained indifferently, the so-called demigod is not a fixed spirit power level, but a transitional state of the life level. It is the sign that a mortal body and soul have begun to transform toward the god level. After a spirit master's cultivation reaches the level of a level 99 limit Douluo, if their physical body can shed its mortal coil and initially transform into an immortal and indestructible divine body, or if their mental power undergoes a qualitative change and transforms into divine sense, as long as either of these two is completed, they can be called a demigod. Forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Only by reaching the demigod level can one truly touch the door of the god level and possess the qualification to strike for level 100. Otherwise, one can only wander outside the door for their entire life. Chapter 31, Revealing Secrets, Shrek roasted on the fire. After explaining what a demigod was, Lei Chen's gaze calmly fell on Du Busi. Those deep eyes seemed able to pierce through eternal ages as he spoke indifferently, his voice exploding in everyone's hearts like a clap of thunder. In this plane for nearly 10,000 years, among those walking in the mortal world, only the sect founding ancestor of your body sect, by virtue of supreme perseverance and talent, forged a mortal body into a true divine body, reaching the level of a demigod. What? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Everyone's eyes instantly focused on Du Busi in unison, filled with disbelief. Even Muen and Xuanzai had a startling light erupt from their eyes. Shrek Academy had a legacy of 10,000 years. although its records mentioned that the body sect's founding ancestor possessed heaven-shaking combat power, there had never been such a clear record that ancestor had actually stepped into the realm of a demigod. Debussy himself trembled violently, the muscles on his face twitching slightly due to extreme shock. As the current sect leader of the body sect, he naturally knew the legend in the sect's supreme legacy, the innate secret method, about forging an indestructible divine body upon reaching great completion. But for 10,000 years since then, no one in the sect had been able to reach that realm. Over time, even he and the previous sect leaders were skeptical of such descriptions, treating them as a beautiful vision or an exaggeration left by the ancestor. Hearing Lei Chen say this now, his voice carried a tremor he hadn't even noticed himself as he asked excitedly, "Rees, respected Plane Master, could it be that what is recorded in my sect's secret method about forging a divine body upon reaching great completion is actually true?" "Of course it's true." Lei Chen's tone remained flat, yet it carried an unquestionable certainty. The sect founding ancestor of your house was a genius of heaven, unprecedented and world-shaking. He not only defied the heavens with a mortal body and successfully forged a divine body, but he also summarized his own insights and left behind this supreme secret method, pointing out a path to the heavens for future generations. Regrettably, since him, no subsequent disciple of the body sect has been able to cultivate it to the realm of great completion, causing the secret method to gather dust, so much so that even you inheritors yourselves did not dare to believe if what was recorded was true. So that's how it is," Debussy muttered to himself. Endless pride and glory first surged onto his face, as if he saw the majestic figure of his ancestor looking down on the world back then, but it was immediately overwhelmed by a sense of immense loss and shame. He sighed heavily, his voice low. "It is the incompetence of the younger generations. Each generation is worse than the last, unable to manifest even a fraction of the ancestors' glory, causing our sect to be disgraced." Looking at the emotional Debussy, an imperceptible sharpness flashed in Lei Chen's deep eyes. He continued to speak calmly, throwing out an even sharper question. "Debussy, do you know that in the past, anyone who could cultivate to the plane's limit, that is, the demigod level, in this plane, already possessed the qualifications to inherit a god position? They could almost all gain the favor of the gods in the divine realm, be granted a god position, ascend to the divine realm, and obtain eternal life. However, your ancestor, this brilliant existence who truly reached the demigod level, ultimately did not get his wish. Instead, like an ordinary spirit master, he lived in dejection and eventually died of old age in this world. Do you know why?" Debussy's body shook violently as he snapped out of his self-reproach. He looked up abruptly, his eyes filled with urgency and confusion. "Why? Please enlighten me, Plane Master." Lei Chen's voice was still calm, but the meaning within it made everyone present feel a chill. The reason is simple, because he was unwilling. Unwilling, Debussy was stunned, and the others also showed expressions of incomprehension. Becoming a god and gaining eternal life was the ultimate dream of almost all spirit masters. How could anyone be unwilling? "Correct, unwilling," Lei Chen affirmed. His gaze seemed to inadvertently sweep over Mu En and Xuanzai, his tone carrying a hint of cold mockery. "Because since 10,000 years ago, when that sea god Tang San achieved his god position, especially after inheriting the Sura god position and grasping great power in the divine realm, he has viewed this plane as his private back garden and personal land. He absolutely does not allow any existence in this plane to exceed his control. Want to become a god? You can, but you must submit to him, follow his will, and become a pawn on his chessboard, or rather, a submissive dog. And the sect founding ancestor of your body sect was proud by nature and would rather break than bend. How could he be willing to give up his dignity and freedom for a god position, begging others for mercy and kneeling in submission? He refused to submit to Tang San's will. Therefore, although he possessed the potential to become a god throughout his entire life, he never received any olive branch from the divine realm. In the end, he could only fall in this mortal world with regret and resentment." "It was actually like this." Debussy's eyes instantly widened in anger, an indescribable and overwhelming rage erupting from his chest, not for himself, but for that brilliant ancestor who suffered such injustice. So the ancestor was not unable to become a god, but rather unwilling to lose his pride, and was thus suppressed by that high and mighty sea god. He suddenly turned his head, those eyes burning with raging fire like two sharp swords, stabbing fiercely at Mu En and Xuanzai standing nearby. At the same time, Yigui, Long Xiaorao, Zhongli Wu, and even Kong Deming, everyone's eyes focused in unison on the two representatives of Shrek Academy. Their gazes were filled with strange expressions. The relationship between Shrek Academy and the sea god Tang San was well known throughout the entire Douluo. 10,000 years ago, Tang San was the most outstanding student of Shrek Academy, and Shrek Academy had always taken pride in this. Inside the academy, not only did a statue of Tang San stand, but everything was named after the sea god Lake, Sea God Island, Sea God Pavilion, all highlighted Shrek Academy's reverence and faith in the sea god Tang San. However, at this moment, from the mouth of this plain master, who was clearly at odds with the sea god Tang San, such a shocking secret was revealed. The sea god that Shrek Academy had believed in for 10,000 years turned out to be such a narrow-minded existence, with such a strong desire for control, who would even suppress the geniuses of this plane. So what role did Shrek Academy, which revered Tang San so much, play in all of this? Did they know about this long ago? Was their reverence today out of ignorance, or were they themselves the executors of Tang San's will? Feeling the gazes around him that had become strange and even hostile, Mu En's already somewhat hunched body seemed to sink even lower. His face was deeply wrinkled and filled with complex emotions. Xuanzai's face flushed red, and he wanted to say something in defense, but in the face of the plain master's vast pressure and this shocking truth, he was momentarily speechless, not knowing where to begin. Chapter 32, Severing Faith, Making the Secret Method Public. Inside the undead space, a deathly silence persisted for a moment. Everyone's gaze was focused on Mu En and Xuanzai, the air filled with an unspeakable embarrassment and scrutiny. Ultimately, it was Mu En who slowly raised his head. This old man, who had weathered many storms, showed no panic at having his secrets exposed. Instead, his expression was a complex mix of heaviness and relief. He met Lei Chen's gaze candidly and spoke in a raspy but clear voice. "Respected Plain Master, what you have said today are secrets unheard of by Shrek or by myself personally." He paused slightly, looking around at the crowd with their various expressions before finally returning his gaze to Lei Chen, his tone becoming incredibly solemn. "If the sea god Tang San is truly, as you say, a narrow-minded individual who suppresses the geniuses of this plane, then my Shrek Academy's 10,000 years of reverence has indeed been a waste of devotion, a betrayal of our ancestors. I, Mu En, hereby swear that upon returning to the Academy, I will immediately order the removal of all statues of Tang San within the grounds, and rename everything associated with the title Sea God, including Sea God Lake, Sea God Island, and Sea God Pavilion. Shrek has been passed down for 10,000 years. What we should revere is the spirit of protecting the continent and nurturing talents, not some selfish deity. In this matter, Shrek will not shirk its responsibility." Xuanzai opened his mouth as if to say something, but seeing Mu En's resolute eyes, he eventually nodded heavily and said deeply, "Agreed." Hearing Mu En's stance, Lei Chen nodded slightly, a trace of imperceptible approval appearing on his face. He naturally knew that Mu En's words came from the heart. In the past 10,000 years, Shrek Academy had indeed only passively accepted the halo left by Tang San, knowing nothing of the secrets behind it. "Ignorance is not a crime." Lei Chen's voice softened slightly. "It is very good that Shrek can distinguish right from wrong and decisively cast off its old empty reputation. As for the matter of removing the statues and renaming, proceed as you have said." He gave his consent seemingly casually, but his heart was clear. On the surface, this seemed like a mere change of names, but behind it lay the power of faith, enough to shake the very foundations of a god-king. As the plain master, Lei Chen had long since seen through the mysteries of Tang San's god position. The sea god divine position Tang San initially inherited was only at the first level god level. He was able to forcibly elevate it to the god-king level, not only because of the boost from holding the Asura god-king status, but more importantly, because he very cleverly expanded the sources of faith for the sea god. And Shrek Academy was precisely the most important link in this power of faith. As a sacred land for spirit masters that had been passed down for 10,000 years and was hailed as the #1 on the continent, Shrek Academy condensed the aspirations and admiration of countless spirit masters and even ordinary people. The power of faith accumulated over 10,000 years was massive. Because the Academy used the name Sea God everywhere, the core inner courtyard was located on Sea God Island, and the highest decision-making body was the Sea God Pavilion. The vast majority of faith directed toward Shrek was invisibly and cleverly distorted and guided, eventually flowing into the river of faith for Thessia god Tang San. Now, once Shrek severed its titular connection with Thessia god and removed Tang San's statues, it would be equivalent to cutting off this most abundant tributary of faith. Without the support of this massive faith accumulated over 10,000 years, Tang San's forcibly elevated sea god divine position would surely have its foundations shaken, and it would most likely fall from the god-king level back to its original first-level god realm. At that time, the super-divine artifact, the sea god trident, which relied on the god-king level sea god status to maintain itself, would also drop in rank. Being able to so easily cause such a major blockage for Tang San, who was struggling far away in the space-time turbulence, and even weaken his possible future threats, Lei Chen, as the plane master, was naturally happy to see it happen and would even give it a push. Nguyen Xuanzai, since this matter is settled, you two should handle it immediately upon your return. Yes, Nguyen and Xuanzai bowed. After settling the matter of Shrek Academy's change of course, Lei Chen's gaze turned toward Du Busey, who was still indignant over the matter of his ancestor. Du Busey. Hearing his name, Du Busey suppressed his anger toward Tang San and replied respectfully, "This junior is here." Lei Chen looked at him and asked directly, "The innate secret method left by the founding ancestor of your body sect is a supreme inheritance that points directly to the path of the divine body. This seat asks you, are you willing to make this secret method public for the benefit of all spirit masters on this plane, so that future generations who aspire to temper their physiques will have a viable path to the heavens?" Make the secret method public. Du Busey looked up abruptly, shock and struggle flashing in his eyes. This was, after all, the supreme, unshared secret of his sect, the foundation upon which the body sect stood on the continent. But when he saw Lei Chen's deep and calm gaze, and thought of his ancestor's end, falling in disappointment due to Tang San's suppression, a surge of hot blood rushed to his head. The secrets of the sect were important, but if they could benefit the entire plane and break the shackles of outside deities, would that not better comfort his ancestor's spirit in heaven? He took a deep breath and gritted his teeth, saying, reporting to the plane master, "If it can provide the spirit masters of our plane with another path to godhood, I, Du Busey, am willing to represent the body sect and make their innate secret method public." Good, a sharp light flashed in Lei Chen's eyes as he promised, that you can prioritize the overall situation of the plane is a great merit. As a reward, this seat can guarantee to help you forge a divine body, break through to level 100, and cultivate you to the peak realm of level 109. Level 109. Hearing this precise promise, Du Busey trembled with excitement. The slight reluctance he felt earlier about making the secret method public vanished instantly. Compared to the promise of reaching the peak of the plane, what did making a secret method public matter? This was simply a once-in-10,000 years opportunity for the body sect to rise. "Thank you, Plane Master, Du Busey will not fail your trust." He prostrated himself heavily, his voice raspy with excitement. Good, Lei Chen nodded slightly, and the seven-colored halo flowing around him suddenly brightened. Like a painter splashing ink imbued with the laws of heaven and earth, it quickly outlined and condensed in the air. In the blink of an eye, 7 thin booklets appeared out of thin air. The covers were ancient, showing a dark gold hue as if forged from the purest power of laws, with the 4 profound characters for the innate secret method faintly circulating on them. Lei Chen flicked his sleeve, and the 7 booklets flew in front of the 7 people present, floating quietly. This is the essence of the innate secret method, manifested after this seat slightly organized and optimized it based on your sex inheritance. You may browse it yourselves, and each take a copy with you. Lei Chen's voice echoed in the silent space. Upon your return, you must spread this method throughout the world for the benefit of all spirit masters who aspire to temper their physiques. There must be no mistakes. Hearing Lei Chen's words, the 7 powerhouses present were all shaken. They impatiently began to flip through the dark gold booklets floating before them, which were condensed from the 7-colored halo. Chapter 33, The Place of Body Refinement, Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. The booklet felt warm and smooth in their hands, as if it possessed a spirit of its own. Everyone couldn't wait to flip it open, their gazes instantly drawn to the incredibly profound diagrams of human meridians and cultivation techniques outlined by a 7-colored halo. These images and texts were not static, they flowed slowly, demonstrating the supreme methods of blood and chi circulation and physical body tempering. Their profundity and subtlety far exceeded any techniques they had encountered before. Just as everyone was immersed in the secret method, Lei Chen's calm voice rang out again, pulling their thoughts back. Although this method points directly toward the path of the divine body, its cultivation is far more difficult than ordinary techniques. The later the stage, the more solid the bottlenecks become. They cannot be broken except by those with great perseverance and great opportunity. His gaze swept over everyone, pausing slightly on Debussy at the end. Even Debussy, who possesses a body-martial soul and has been stuck at the peak of level 98 for nearly a century, has failed to cultivate this secret method to great mastery or touch the threshold of the divine body. If I were to let you all comprehend and practice bitterly on your own, I fear that in your entire lives, few would be able to use this to break through the shackles of the mortal coil. These words were like cold water poured over their heads, causing the group, who had been boiling with excitement after obtaining the supreme secret method, to instantly calm down. Their faces showed expressions of solemnity and reflection. Indeed, even a powerhouse like Debussy, who specialized in the physical body, had been stuck for 100 years. For those of them who did not specialize in this path, the difficulty could well be imagined. Therefore, Lei Chen's tone shifted as the seven-colored halo around him suddenly intensified. I shall open a cultivation secret realm for you all to lend you a helping hand. Without waiting for them to thank him, Lei Chen raised his hand, and invisible spatial power instantly enveloped the seven of them. They only felt the scene before them suddenly blur and distort, as if passing through an invisible tunnel. The next moment, the sensation of solid ground returned, and their surroundings had undergone a world-shaking change. A blast of extreme cold and a wave of scorching heat hit them alternately, causing even these powerhouses standing at the apex of the continent to feel a chill in their hearts. Looking closely, they were in the middle of a massive mountain valley basin. In the center of the basin was a sight that could be called a natural wonder of heaven and earth. A spring was clearly divided into two sections. One side was icy white, bone-chillingly cold with wisps of frost, looking as if it could freeze the very air. The other side was crimson, incredibly hot, with scorching water vapor rising and distorting the air above it. Ice and fire, two completely opposite elemental energies, met here yet weirdly maintained a balance, forming a unique energy field. The heaven and earth origin energy was so dense it was almost liquid, making one feel their spirit power growing slightly with every breath. This was the legendary treasure basin of heaven and earth, the ice and fire yin-yang well. Around the basin grew countless strange flowers and exotic herbs of various shapes, emitting a shimmering treasure light. All were immortal-grade herbs rarely seen in the outside world, each containing boundless energy. Lei Chen's gaze swept indifferently over these immortal herbs, and then he raised his hand, giving a light wave toward the surroundings of the ice and fire yin-yang well. In an instant, the valley erupted with brilliant light. All the immortal herbs, whether ancient or mere seedlings, were wrapped in seven-colored light and teleported away through space. These immortal herbs were sent directly by Lei Chen to the core of the Stardew Great Forest, onto that golden ancient tree emitting a vast aura of life. As the life core of the plane, the environment there was far better for nourishing immortal herbs than the ice and fire yin-yang well. As for the ice and fire yin-yang well, it would be cleared out to serve as a body refinement site for the spirit masters of this plane in the future. This is the ice and fire yin-yang well, Lei Chen spoke after all the immortal herbs had been teleported away, his voice echoing in the valley. Formed by the convergence of extreme cold and extreme heat origin energies, it is a masterpiece of nature. The water in this spring contains enough energy to temper a god-level physique. He pointed to the spring where ice and fire intertwined. From this day forward, this place shall serve as the body refinement grounds for the top powerhouses of this plane. In the future, you may bring the super Douluo of your respective forces who have reached level 95 or higher, or juniors who have cultivated their innate secret method to the minor mastery stage, to this place. Using the extreme cold and heat here to temper the physical body will yield twice the result with half the effort. To let them experience it firsthand, Lei Chen commanded, Muan Yi Zishui, Long Zai Rao, Xuan Zai, Zhangli Wu, the five of you may enter the spring to try it first. Remember, enter from one side first and proceed step by step. Do not step directly into the intersection of ice and fire. The five named powerhouses looked at each other, all seeing the eagerness and solemnity in each other's eyes. They could clearly feel the terrifying energy contained within the spring water. Muan was the first to walk toward the icy side, while Yi Zishui and Long Zai Rao chose the hot spring, Xuanzai and Zhongli Wu also each chose a side. The moment they stepped into the water, even though they were prepared, their expressions couldn't help but change. Extreme cold instantly invaded, as if trying to freeze their souls. The boiling heat felt like being in a furnace, scorching every inch of skin. Powerful energy surged frantically into their bodies, washing through their meridians and tempering their flesh and bones. The five immediately circulated their spirit power, resisting and absorbing this force with all their might. Their faces showed complex expressions of pain intertwined with pleasure. Clearly, this tempering effect was extremely significant, but it was by no means easy to endure. On the shore, only Debussy and Kong Deming remained. Debussy looked at the spring water with fervent eyes, and then at Lei Chen, while Kong Deming was more amazed by the natural wonder itself. Lei Chen first looked at Debussy, rewarding him for his act of offering up his sect's highest inheritance. His gaze swept over the spot where a unique immortal herb had originally grown. There had been a small tree there, bearing a fruit the size of a fist, entirely golden, with countless points of light flowing on its surface like a miniature starry sky. Lei Chen reached out through the air, and that fruit, which he had already transplanted to the golden ancient tree and was named the Douluo Spirit Pearl, fell into his hand, emitting an enticing fragrance and boundless energy. Debussy, this is for you. Lei Chen handed the Douluo Spirit Pearl over. This fruit contains the power of the astral source. It can help you stabilize your spirit power, nourish your spiritual power, condense a second soul core, and break through the level 99 bottleneck. After you break through, with your mastery of the innate secret method, you will be only one major hurdle away from forging a divine body. At that time, you may enter the intersection of the ice and fire yin-yang well, and use the extreme forces of ice and fire to complete your final transformation. Debussy's hands trembled as he took the Douluo Spirit Pearl. Feeling the pure energy within, he was so excited he could hardly contain himself. He knelt down heavily. Many thanks for the Plane Master's generous gift. Debussy will surely not disappoint your expectations. I will break through early and forge a divine body. After settling things with Debussy, Lei Chen turned his gaze toward Kong Deming. This spirit tool master of the Sun-Moon Empire was currently looking at the ice and fire yin-yang well thoughtfully, as if considering whether such an extreme environment could be used for the creation of high-level spirit tools. Chapter 34, The Alchemy System of the Divine Seal Plane. After settling things with Debussy and bestowing the Douluo Spirit Pearl upon him, Lei Chen turned his gaze toward Kong Deming, who had been standing silently to the side, his eyes shimmering with contemplation and wonder. This father of spirit tools of the Sun-Moon Empire was currently sizing up the natural wonder of the ice and fire yin-yang well thoughtfully, seemingly deducing in his heart how to apply such an extreme environment to the forging of spirit tool core formations or the tempering of special alloys. Kong Deming, Lei Chen spoke calmly, pulling Kong Deming's thoughts back. Kong Deming immediately collected himself and replied respectfully, I am here. Please give your instructions, Plane Master. Lei Chen nodded slightly, quite appreciative of Kong Deming's attitude of focusing on research and exploration. He slowly raised his hand, and colorful light gathered at his fingertips. It did not condense into a physical book, but transformed into a more complex stream of light, containing countless strange symbols and three-dimensional structures. In the stream of light, it seemed as if countless tiny gears were turning, blazing furnaces were burning in illusory shadows, and various energy combinations that defied common sense were flashing. This is an alchemy inheritance I obtained from a different plane. Lei Chen's voice carried a sense of wonder as he introduced an alien civilization. That plane pushed alchemy to its limit, and its system is so developed that it far exceeds the spirit tool technology you are currently studying. He pointed to several blurry phantoms of equipment, emerging from the stream of light that emitted earth-shaking power, and continued. In their system, through alchemy, one can create artifacts of infinite power. The best among them are called divine artifacts, and even stronger ones are great divine artifacts. Their power is enough to move mountains, fill seas, and shake the very laws of nature. Lei Chen's gaze fell on Kong Deming. Looking back at our plane, although the spirit tool technology discovered so far has its unique points, it has not yet reached its peak. The highest level rank 10 soul tools you can currently produce have a power roughly equivalent to the subdivine artifact level in the alchemy system of that different plane. There is still a gap between them and true divine artifacts. As Kong Deming listened to Lei Chen's narrative, his breathing involuntarily quickened, and his eyes stared fixedly at the colorful stream of light containing endless knowledge. As a peak researcher in the field of spirit tools, he knew better than anyone what a mature and higher-level technical system meant. This was simply opening a door to a new world for him and for the entire Sun-Moon Empire's spirit tool research. Today, I shall bestow this alchemy inheritance from a different plane upon you. Lei Chen flicked his finger, and the colorful stream of light turned into a streak of light that instantly entered the space between Kong Deming's eyebrows. A massive flow of information poured into his mind. Kong Deming's body trembled slightly, and his face was instantly filled with extreme shock and wild joy. He seemed to see countless new material processing techniques, energy resonance models. It was a treasury of knowledge as vast as the sea. I hope you can study it diligently, take its essence, discard the dross, and perfectly integrate this alchemy method, which is completely different from our plane, with the spirit tool technology of the Sun-Moon Empire. Lei Chen's voice carried encouragement. I look forward to you, and to the Sun-Moon Empire, truly creating a divine artifact belonging to our plane one day. Kong Deming was so excited he could hardly contain himself. He bowed deeply, his voice trembling slightly with excitement. Thank you for the generous gift, Plane Master. This inheritance is truly a priceless treasure for our Sun-Moon Empire's spirit tool research. I, Deming, hereby swear to exhaust my life's blood to study this technique, master it thoroughly, and never fail the Plane Master's expectations. I will make the name of the Sun-Moon Empire's spirit tools resound throughout the universe. I believe in the Sun-Moon Empire's capabilities in spirit tool research. Lei Chen nodded, but then changed the subject. However, Kong Deming, there is one matter I need to remind you of, as well as the Sun-Moon Empire you represent. Kong Deming felt a chill in his heart and said respectfully, Please enlighten me, Plane Master. With the advantage of spirit tools, the Sun-Moon Empire is powerful, but in the path of a spirit master's own cultivation, it appears quite weak. Lei Chen spoke bluntly. The Sun-Moon Empire has been established for thousands of years, yet very few powerful spirit masters have emerged. To this day, you are the only one who has reached the level 95 Super Douluo level. The root cause is not a lack of talent, but that you have taken a wrong path. His gaze seemed able to see through the impurities accumulated within Kong Deming's body. You rely too much on drugs to increase spirit power. Although progress is fast, it also accumulates a large amount of impurities in your body. It isn't obvious in the early stages, but when you cultivate to high levels like Spirit Douluo or Title Douluo, these hidden dangers turn into extremely solid bottlenecks, trapping you and making further progress difficult. Hearing this, a hint of bitterness appeared on Kong Deming's face. How could he not know about this problem? He had only managed to break through level 95 by relying on great perseverance and the assistance of spirit tools. Trying to go further was already extremely difficult. Many talented spirit masters in the Empire had fallen before the high-level bottlenecks. The key to solving this drawback and reversing the cultivation slump lies in the optimized, the innate secret method I just provided. Lei Chen gave the solution. This method focuses on tempering the physical body and solidifying the foundation. As long as you practice diligently and reach the minor completion stage of the secret method, you can come to this ice and fire yin-yang well and use the extreme power of the spring water to baptize your physical body, thereby significantly removing impurities and breaking through bottlenecks. A light of hope reignited in Kong Deming's eyes, and he said solemnly, I understand. After returning to the Empire, I will list the innate secret method as a mandatory cultivation technique for the Empire's soul tool masters, promote it vigorously, and organize those who meet the criteria to come here for body tempering. Good, Lei Chen hummed and said no more. Gesturing, in that case, go into the spring with Debussy and try it. You can also personally experience the divine effects of this place. Remember to act within your capabilities. Yes, Kong Deming suppressed his excitement from receiving the alchemy inheritance and exchanged a look with the already impatient Debussy. The two of them each chose a side of the spring and stepped into it cautiously, beginning to temper their bodies with the help of this natural wonder. After all 7 powerhouses were immersed in the tempering of the ice and fire yin-yang well, Lei Chen's figure quietly faded, as if merging into the breeze, and disappeared from the valley. The sea of plane origin of the Douluo Plane. Lei Chen returned, surrounded by a haze of colorful light reflecting his calm and unruffled face, as he reviewed the arrangements for summoning the 7 top powerhouses of the Douluo. With the optimized, the innate secret method, and the opening of the ice and fire yin-yang well, under such conditions, Yigui and Jangli Wu, these 2 great evil soul masters, will most likely break through level 100 in the future thanks to their deep accumulation. forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. At that time, they will be the best sacrificial offerings for Yigui to recast the angel god position. Using the massive evil origin of god-level evil soul masters as nourishment will be enough to trigger the complete recovery of the angelic sacred sword. Chapter 35 – Ideas for refining a natal divine tool, continuing to strike at Tang San's faith. The optimized, the innate secret method was widely spread throughout the world, and the ice and fire yin-yang well was opened as a holy land for body tempering. This move was not only to cultivate the two evil soul masters, Yigui and Jangli Wu, to break through to the god level so they could serve as sacrifices under the angelic sacred sword in the future, but also to increase the probability of future spirit masters in this world breaking through the limits of mortality and reaching the god level. The emergence of more local god level experts is itself an enhancement of the plane's foundation. A plane where multiple god level existences emerge cannot be compared in terms of potential and stability to one supported solely by the plane master. Secondly, bestowing that peak alchemy inheritance from the divine seal plane upon Cultivating could be considered planting a seed of infinite potential. The Sun Moon Empire's spirit of research in the field of spirit tools is not to be underestimated. Obtaining this set of high-level extraplanar systems, which are completely different from local spirit tool technology, yet more systematic, will surely trigger a world-shaking explosion of technology when the two collide and merge. In time, creating divine tools belonging to the Douluo Plane itself is by no means a delusion, and the appearance of a large number of divine tool-level creations would also be a huge enhancement to the overall strength and foundation of the plane. At the thought of divine tools, Lei Chen's mind couldn't help but fall upon himself. Speaking of which, as a plane master whose status is equal to a first-rank deity, he didn't even have a decent divine tool at the moment. His previous brief actions to suppress Tang Hao and Yin and annihilate a few strands of Tang San's divine sense were all achieved by forcefully using his realm as a first-level god, purely suppressing others with power. If he were to clash and fight to the death with a first-rank deity of the same level in the future, he would undoubtedly suffer a great disadvantage without a divine tool in hand, and his methods would appear exceptionally limited. Therefore, for Lei Chen, possessing a suitable divine tool was also a very important matter. With his current abilities and the resources gathered in the Douluo Plane, refining 8 or 10 divine tools would not actually be difficult. Whether it was the Silver Mother of the Deep Sea Sunken Silver, the essence of the Earth Core Fire Jade, or various curiosities containing lore fragments, everything was available in his plane. However, those ordinary divine tools were merely the icing on the cake for him, and the role they could play was very limited. The kind of divine tool that Lei Chen could refine at will might be a dream treasure for ordinary god-level experts, but for him, the plane master who governed a whole world, it didn't mean much. So in Lei Chen's view, rather than wasting time refining these ordinary divine tools, it was better to leave them to Cultivating and the others to research and create, which would be excellent practice for them. As for Lei Chen himself, what he truly needed was an exclusive divine artifact, deeply tied to his own status and authority, capable of perfectly exerting his full strength, much like the sea god trident was to the sea god and the angelic sacred sword was to the god of angels. Such divine tools often contained unique laws and growth potential, sharing glory and loss with their master. They were by no means something that could be achieved by simply piling up ordinary materials, and refining such a divine tool would not be so easy. The refining of an exclusive divine artifact cannot be rushed, it needs to be planned carefully. Fortunately, I already have a few ideas in mind. Lei Chen's gaze was deep, as if piercing through the endless void to see certain future possibilities. The matter of refining an exclusive divine artifact concerned his very foundation and required full preparation, choosing the carrier and opportunity that best fit his identity as the plane master. Before officially starting preparations for refining the exclusive divine artifact, there was another urgent matter to handle, continuing to clear the nails Tang San had left in this plane and completely cutting off his source of faith. In the current Douluo Plane, faith in Tang San could roughly be divided into land and ocean parts, and the faith on land was further divided into overt and covert lines. The overt line, also the largest one, was Shrek Academy. 10,000 years of reverence and promotion had caused the power of faith gathered by Shrek to be quite considerable, and because its internal buildings and institutions were all named after the sea god, most of this power of faith was directed toward Tang San. Now, Lei Chen had ordered Muen to remove the statues and change the names, effectively cutting this largest tributary of faith in half. As for the covert line, it was the reclusive sea god family. However, this family's situation was somewhat special. Strictly speaking, the source of their faith was the first-generation sea god, and for Tang San, they mostly acknowledged and partially honored him as the successor to the sea god divine position. Additionally, they were few in number and had lived in seclusion for many years, having no influence on the situation of the continent, so the power of faith they could provide was minuscule. Even if left alone, it would have no impact on the overall situation. The faith from the sea god family is like a stream to a vast ocean. Even if ignored, it won't cause any waves, Lei Chen thought quickly. However, since I'm doing a thorough cleanup, it's better not to leave any blind spots. Perhaps I can make some arrangements to guide their faith to shift completely. A thought flashed by, and Lei Chen already had a plan. For this insignificant yet symbolically special corner, he only needed a little guidance to ensure everything was foolproof. In this way, the faith on land can basically be purged. Next is the even more vast and more crucial ocean. Lei Chen's gaze seemed to pierce through space, casting toward that azure world that occupied the vast majority of the Douluo star's surface. That was the true headquarters of the sea god's faith. The faith of land-based life in the sea god could naturally not be very stable. In Lei Chen's view, it was just a rootless tree, naturally easy to clear, but in the ocean, it was truly a bit troublesome. Just as the spirit beasts of the extreme north land still had deep-rooted faith in the ice god, hundreds of thousands of years after his fall, the faith of the billions of sea soul beasts in the ocean toward the sea god was the same. It could even be said to have long since merged into their blood, becoming a part of maintaining their racial identity. The accumulation and stability of this faith were far beyond the superficial reverence of the land spirit masters generated by Shrek Academy's propaganda. If Lei Chen forcibly used the authority of the Plane Master to suppress or erase it, that would definitely not be the best move and might even trigger a violent backlash from the ocean's faith. Guidance is better than obstruction, in Lei Chen's view. The key to dismantling the ocean life's faith in Tang San lay in replacement. Lei Chen's gaze once again turned toward the extreme north land, and the figure of the Snow Empress appeared before his eyes. Supporting the Snow Empress to inherit the position of the ice god, and regrouping the faith of the extreme north land for the ice god was a good example. Then for the ocean, perhaps this method could also be emulated. The foundation of the sea god's faith lies in the fact that the ocean needs a ruler to maintain balance and order. Now that Tang San is gone, he can be treated as if he, the sea god, is as dead as the ancient ice god. Naturally, just like with the ancient ice god, a successor can be chosen for him as the sea god. Chapter 36, Finalizing the Script, Replicating the Path of the First-Generation Sea God. If a new sea god could be cultivated to replace Tang San's position in the ocean, this immense power of faith could naturally be converted, absorbed, and utilized for one's own purposes. A clear plan took shape in Lei Chen's mind. Next, his gaze swept across the vast expanse of the ocean, searching for the Zed, capable of bearing the authority of the seas and worthy of cultivation. Within the sea of plain origin, Lei Chen's perception, like an intangible and formless tide, instantly covered the ocean world of Douluo Star, far vaster than its landmasses. Azure abysses, undulating mountain ranges, blazing volcanic vents, resplendent coral jungles. The pulses and auras of billions of marine lives, like a scattering of stars, were clearly reflected in his mind. His will swept past these points of light, quickly locking onto several existences with the most majestic energy levels, the current supreme powerhouses of the ocean. Among them, one energy cluster, profound, obscure, and brimming with resentment, malice, and an aura of destruction, stood out like a beacon in the night. It was entrenched somewhere in the deep sea, its energy intensity even surpassing that of the other ocean powerhouses by an order of magnitude. The Demon Empress, Lei Chen silently uttered this title in his heart. This deep-sea demon whale, who called herself the Demon Empress, was precisely the wife of the deep-sea demon whale king slain by Tang San 10,000 years ago. The pain of losing her husband and her extreme hatred for Tang San and humanity drove her to frantically increase her strength. Her current cultivation was not much weaker than her husband's in his lifetime, making her the true overlord of the present-day seas. In terms of strength and her grudge against Tang San, she seemed the ideal candidate to usurp the sea god's faith. However, Lei Chen's perception lingered on her for only a moment before he decisively excluded her. The reason was simple: this individual had walked herself into a dead end. Over these past 10,000 years, to rapidly accumulate energy, the demon empress had taken the same plundering path as her husband, wantonly devouring other life in the ocean. From weak sea soul beasts to powerful clans, all became her bloody feast. Such actions had long been notorious across the vast oceans. Wherever she went, she brought only endless fear and hatred. To expect marine life to abandon their faith in Thesia god, and instead worship a demoness who might devour them at any moment, that was sheer fantasy. Therefore, the existence of the demon empress not only failed to sever the marine life's faith in Tang San, but was instead constantly creating despair. In a way, it might even have inversely reinforced some marine beings' faith in Thesia god, hoping for the sea god to descend and slay this fiend. This demon empress, she's certainly holding the villain's script steady. Lei Chen shook his head. The demon empress's actions undoubtedly cut her off from the path of faith. However, within fortune lies misfortune, and within misfortune lies fortune. The demon empress's villainous conduct, in Lei Chen's eyes, held another ingenious use. It instantly reminded him of the god ascension path of the first-generation sea god tens of thousands of years ago. Back then, it was precisely the deep-sea demon whale king, who wreaked havoc in the seas and devoured all life, that played the perfect, world-ending villain role, allowing the first-generation sea god to appear in the guise of a savior. The first-generation sea god united the various ocean clans to resist the deep-sea demon whale king, protecting the weak. It was through this prolonged struggle that he gradually won the reverence and allegiance of billions of marine lives, ultimately gathering faith and forging the sea god divine position. And how strikingly similar history was. Now, although the deep-sea demon whale king was dead, his wife, the demon empress, had perfectly taken over the villain's script, even surpassing her husband in resentment and madness. In that case, why not perform the same play according to the old script? A gleam flashed in Lei Chen's eyes. Cultivate a new sea god, raise the banner of justice, oppose the demon empress, and save all ocean life. In this process, new faith will naturally converge, gradually replacing the original sea god faith directed at Tang San. Even better, if this plan could be successfully implemented, it could also drag in that sea god family, which had always revered the first-generation sea god. When the time came, with just a little arrangement by Lei Chen, having the sea god family step forward to acknowledge this newly risen existence as the inheritor of the first-generation sea god's will and the true guardian of the seas, its legitimacy could even turn around and suppress Tang San, this usurper. The mere thought of Tang San, who might still be caught in the space-time turbulence, discovering his faith foundation being undermined, and even being denounced as a false god, brought a faint, pleased curve to Lei Chen's lips. Let's do it. With the plan settled, Lei Chen immediately began screening for the protagonist, capable of shouldering this great task. His perception swept past one powerful sea soul beast clan after another, the tyrannical devil tiger whale pods, the mysterious and profound devil ray clan, the ancient and mighty deep-sea krakens. Finally, his gaze settled on the periphery of the extreme north land, beneath the eternally ice-covered frozen sea, on a beautiful and peaceful clan, the Merfolk clan. And his attention focused on the Merfolk clan's ruler, the Sea Princess, with a cultivation of 600,000 years. Naturally, Lei Chen had his considerations for choosing the Sea Princess. The first was strength. Possessing a cultivation of 600,000 years, the Sea Princess was very powerful. Although still not a match for that Demon Empress, the gap wasn't vast, giving her the qualification to oppose the Demon Empress. However, strength wasn't the most important reason Lei Chen chose the Sea Princess. While her 600,000 years of cultivation were enough for her to hold her ground in future conflicts, the ocean wasn't without existences stronger than her. What truly made Lei Chen favor her was her nature and conduct. This Sea Princess's disposition bore a striking resemblance to that of the Jade Swan, Bai Jai, from the Stardew Great Forest. She was inherently extremely kind, never actively harming any life. Instead, she tirelessly used her powerful spiritual power and affinity for water elements to heal injured sea soul beasts, mediate disputes between ocean clans, and protect weak creatures. In the law of the jungle, perilous world of the ocean, the Sea Princess and the Merfolk clan she led were like a rare oasis of benevolence. Their very existence already embodied a considerable degree of gratitude and trust. Especially against the backdrop of the demon empress's atrocities, this kindness appeared even more precious and had already accumulated a latent, positive embryonic form of faith in some sea regions. Kindness is a weakness, but it can also be the strongest weapon to unite hearts, Lei Chen thought to himself. The core of the first-generation sea god was protection, not conquest. Having a benevolent ruler like the sea princess play the savior is far more convincing and resonant to the hearts of all ocean life than choosing a merely powerful overlord. Moreover, the merfolk clan borders the extreme Northland. Perhaps, in the future, there could be some collaboration with Snow Empress's forces from the extreme north. Thinking this, Lei Chen hesitated no longer and officially finalized the script. Chapter 37, Descending to the Lake of Life, the auspicious beast nurturing the Golden Dragon King's origin. Within the Sea of Plane origin, Lei Chen withdrew the wisp of consciousness he had cast beneath the icy sea. The demon empress's atrocities and the sea princess's kindness had already set the stage for this grand play of retracing the path of the first-generation sea god. The seeds of conflict had long been sown, and now they only needed to wait for them to take root and sprout. Thus, after finalizing the script, Lei Chen did not descend in person as he had before. He only needed to provide a little guidance at a critical moment in the future, and everything would fall into place naturally. Now it's time to handle my own affairs. With a thought from Lei Chen, a seven-colored light flickered around him, and his figure vanished from the Sea of Origin. The next moment, at the heart of the Stardew Great Forest, by the shore of the Lake of Life, subtle ripples appeared in space, and Lei Chen's figure quietly emerged. His majesty as the Plane Master, perfectly integrated with heaven and earth, along with the purple-gold lightning mark on his brow that carried an aura of judgment, made him appear like a deity descending to the mortal realm. The Lake of Life at this moment had undergone earth-shaking changes compared to the past. The already extremely dense life energy had experienced a qualitative leap after the golden ancient tree took root here, and a layer of thick, milky white mist even swirled above the lake's surface. This was no ordinary water vapor, but a spiritual mist formed from highly liquefied life energy. The vegetation by the lakeside grew wildly, with spirit herbs everywhere emitting a refreshing fragrance. The entire area seemed to have transformed into an earthly paradise, peaceful and brimming with vitality. Because he didn't intentionally restrain his aura, Lei Chen's sudden arrival naturally caught the attention of those present. By the lakeside, a slender green figure sat cross-legged, absorbing the dense life energy around her. She had long, dark green hair, skin as white as jade, an exquisite countenance, and a gentle, soft temperament. She was none other than the emerald swan ranked fourth among the 10 great savage beasts, Bai Jai. Feeling that vast and familiar pressure, Bai Jai immediately woke from her cultivation state and opened her emerald green eyes. When she saw Lei Chen standing by the lakeside with his hands behind his back, she hurriedly rose, stepped forward, and bowed respectfully, her voice ethereal and pleasant. Bai Jai pays her respects to the Plane Master. Not far from Bai Jai, a strange-looking spirit beast had been lazily lying on a smooth bluestone, sunbathing. It had the body of a lion and the claws of a dragon, covered entirely in brilliant golden fur, appearing incomparably noble. Most peculiar of all was that it actually had 3 eyes. Besides its 2 normal eyes, there was a vertical pupil on its forehead that flickered with an eerie red light. This was the imperial auspicious beast, the 3-eyed golden lion. It was also startled by Lei Chen's arrival, raising its head to look at him with all 3 eyes, its golden gaze filled with intense curiosity and inquiry. It could sense Bai Jai's respect for this suddenly appearing stranger, as well as the vast aura emanating from him that made it instinctively feel both close and reverent. Lei Chen nodded slightly to the bowing Bai Jai, his gaze lingering on her for a moment. Sensing that the life energy within her was even more abundant and pure than during their last meeting, a satisfied smile played across his lips. Not bad, Lei Chen's voice was calm, yet carried an unquestionable insight. It hasn't been long since our last meeting, yet your cultivation has improved significantly, already approaching the peak of 580,000 years. At this rate, breaking through the 600,000-year bottleneck is just around the corner. Facing the praise of the Plane Master, not a hint of pride appeared on Bai Jai's beautiful face. Instead, she lowered her head even more humbly and responded softly, "Your Excellency overpraises me. Any progress Bai Jai has made is entirely thanks to Your Excellency's grace. If you hadn't moved the golden ancient tree here, making the life energy far superior to before. It would have been impossible for Bai Jai to advance so rapidly. This is not due to Bai Jai's ability, but rather your excellency's miraculous work. Lei Chen naturally knew the reason. Bai Jai's true form was an emerald swan, naturally possessing an extremely strong life attribute, and her cultivation method was inherently tied to the density of life energy. Among the 10 great savage beasts, her combat ability might not be the highest, but her cultivation speed was the fastest due to her affinity for and efficiency in absorbing life energy. Now that the environment of the Lake of Life had received an epic enhancement, it would be difficult for her cultivation not to grow rapidly. While the environment is an external factor, being able to make good use of it is also your destiny, Lei Chen said indifferently, his gaze then turning to the three-eyed golden lion, which was tilting its head and observing him. Feeling Lei Chen's gaze, the three-eyed golden lion showed no fear. Instead, it stood up, took a few elegant steps forward, and the eye of destiny on its forehead flickered slightly, as if trying to see through Lei Chen's true nature. Seeing this, Bai Jai feared the imperial auspicious beast might offend the plain master and quickly explained softly, "Your Excellency, this is the imperial auspicious beast, three-eyed golden lion. It possesses high intelligence but has had very little contact with the outside world. If it is disrespectful, I hope you will be patient with it." Lei Chen waved his hand to indicate it was fine. He looked at the three-eyed golden lion, his gaze piercing directly through its body to see the slowly circulating dark gold origin within it, causing a hint of emotion to rise in his heart. This origin was, in essence, the remnant of the Golden Dragon King, the incarnation of half of the dragon god's power and tyrannical will. It symbolized a god-king level status, a supreme existence that stood above ordinary deities, governed the laws of the universe, and looked down upon the birth and death of myriad worlds. However, this god-king level origin was currently incredibly weak. To restore it to its peak state with the power of a true god-king would likely take tens of thousands of years, or even longer. The reason lay with the bearer, the three-eyed golden lion itself. Although the imperial auspicious beast was noble, and naturally gathered the providence of the Stardew Great Forest, its own cultivation and strength were simply too minuscule compared to an existence like the Golden Dragon King. For it to nurture this god-king origin was like trying to fill a vast ocean with the water of a stream. The efficiency was extremely low, and at the current rate, it would take forever. If the three-eyed golden lion's strength could be greater, perhaps even breaking through mortal limits to reach the god level, then with its unique talent for gathering providence combined with a god-level life essence, the speed of nurturing the Golden Dragon King's origin would surely achieve a qualitative leap, with efficiency far exceeding the current rate by 1,000-fold. However, while the idea was good, reality was quite harsh. The cultivation speed of spirit beasts was inherently slow, and the accumulation required to break through to the god level was as vast as the sea. Given the three-eyed golden lion's current cultivation and growth speed, even with a sacred land like the Lake of Life, the time required to cross that chasm would likely not be short. Unless she transformed into a human and cultivated with a human body, then her cultivation speed would certainly increase to an astonishing degree. Chapter 38, Getting the Auspicious Beast, Gathering the Gold of Life. Watching the approaching three-eyed golden lion, a trace of imperceptible deep meaning flashed in Lei Chen's eyes. He reached out his hand, gently stroking the auspicious beast's brilliant golden, warm-to-the-touch fur. The three-eyed golden lion also seemed to enjoy this closeness, emitting a comfortable purring sound from its throat and slightly narrowing its three eyes. "Little one," Lei Chen's voice carried a hint of casual gentleness. "Are you interested in taking human form? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio." Suddenly hearing Lei Chen's question, the auspicious beast's enjoying movements paused. It raised its head, all three eyes revealing clear surprise. It tilted its head and spoke in a crisp, pleasant, almost girlish human voice. "Take human form? You mean become like Bai Jai and the others?" Hearing the auspicious beast mention her, Bai Jai, standing nearby, also revealed a gentle smile on her face, but she did not interrupt, merely listening quietly to the exchange between the plain master and the auspicious beast. "More or less. But there are some fundamental differences," Lei Chen explained, his fingers brushing past the vertical pupil on the lion's forehead that contained the power of fate. "The transformation I speak of is for you to truly take human form like a 100,000-year spirit beast, possessing a spirit just like a human spirit master." "Is that so?" the three-eyed golden lion pondered, scratching its chin with a paw. "Then, if I transform, what are the benefits?" Although its intelligence was extremely high, its thoughts were relatively simple, and it directly asked the question it cared about most. Lei Chen smiled slightly and straightforwardly gave the most tempting answer. The greatest benefit is that your cultivation speed will become extremely fast. Extremely fast, the three-eyed golden lion's ears instantly pricked up, its golden eyes sparkling with interest. How fast? Lei Chen did not answer directly, but instead asked a counter-question. At your current cultivation speed, how long do you think it would take for you to surpass Dai Tian and become the strongest in the Stardew Great Forest? Hearing this, the three-eyed golden lion began to think seriously. It deeply understood Dai Tian's power. He was an existence it needed to look up to. After some estimation, it spoke somewhat hesitantly, probably tens of thousands of years, or maybe over 100,000. This time frame was unimaginably long for humans, but for an auspicious beast with a long lifespan, although it felt distant, it was not unacceptable. Hearing the three-eyed golden lion's words, Lei Chen immediately laughed and continued, "If you take human form, I can guarantee you that within 10 years, you will have a 100% certainty of surpassing Dai Tian. At that time, beating him soundly would not be difficult." 10 years, really only 10 years. The three-eyed golden lion's three eyes instantly widened into perfect circles, its brilliant golden fur puffing up slightly with excitement. 10 years was not a long time in its life. To exchange such a short period for power surpassing Dai Tian was far too great a temptation. Furthermore, its innate nature also held the pride of an auspicious beast. Its yearning for powerful strength was no weaker than other spirit beasts. Therefore, with almost no further hesitation, while happily wagging its dragon-like golden tail, it excitedly said to Lei Chen, "I'll transform. I'll go prepare for the transformation right now." As soon as the words fell, it transformed into a streak of golden light, hurriedly running deep into the forest, clearly unable to wait to begin this metamorphosis. Seeing this, Baijai couldn't help but reveal a trace of worry on her face. The auspicious beast was crucial to the Stardew Great Forest, and its thoughts were simple. She was truly uneasy about it undertaking such a major event as transformation alone. Thus, she quickly bowed respectfully to Lei Chen. "Esteemed one, the auspicious beast transforming alone may be inconvenient. Baijai humbly requests permission to go and watch over it." Lei Chen naturally understood Baijai's concern and nodded. "Go, having you there to protect the process is indeed more secure. When the critical moment of her transformation arrives, I will naturally pay attention." "Thank you, esteemed one." Baijai bowed once more, her figure transforming into a streak of emerald light as she chased after the direction of the three-eyed golden lion. As the auras of Baijai and the auspicious beast faded into the distance, the Lake of Life's shore regained its tranquility, leaving only Lei Chen. The gentle smile on his face gradually faded, his gaze becoming profound and focused. Having the auspicious beast transform was both part of his plan to accelerate the nurturing of the Golden Dragon King's origin and a piece of his overall scheme. Now, he needed to begin handling his own affairs, forging a divine artifact bound to the grade of this plane. He slowly raised his right hand, giving the void a gentle grasp as if seizing the entire plane's lifeline. "Come," a seemingly ordinary, soft exclamation, yet it contained the supreme authority of holding the cosmos in one's palm. Instantly, across the entire Douluo Plane, in every location that contained gold of life, whether hidden beneath 10,000 Jang deep seas, concealed within the cores of ancient mountain ranges, or buried under endless desert sands, a faint resonance occurred simultaneously. In the next moment, dozens of emerald green streams of light, as if summoned by a supreme call, tore through space, shooting from every corner of the plane to gather above the Lake of Life, quietly suspending themselves before Lei Chen. These emerald green, crystal-like metal blocks varied in shape and size. The smallest were only the size of a fingernail, emitting a faint green glow. The largest were as big as fists, completely translucent, with what seemed like green liquid slowly flowing inside, releasing a vast, ocean-like vitality. The moment they appeared, the life aura of the entire Lake of Life area suddenly surged violently. Even the plants and trees along the shore began to grow and bloom at a visible rate. Among these dozens of pieces of gold of life, the most eye-catching was a massive crystal suspended in the center, its volume far exceeding its counterparts. It was as large as a human head, its entire body displaying an incredibly deep ink green color, crystal clear, and without the slightest impurity. The life energy contained within it was as vast as an abyss. Merely its naturally emitted fluctuations caused the surrounding space to ripple with faint green waves. This largest piece of gold of life originated from the deepest part of the Lake of Life, beneath Lei Chen's feet, the essence accumulated by the Stardew Great Forest over countless ages. Lei Chen's gaze swept over the dozens of pieces of gold of life gathered before him, containing the life essence of the entire plane. A trace of satisfaction flashed in his eyes. So-called gold of life is not ordinary ore. It is the ultimate condensed form of the purest and most massive vitality between heaven and earth. It is an immeasurable amount of life energy that, under some extremely special environment, is continuously compressed and purified, nurtured over tens of millions of years or even longer, finally solidifying from gaseous and liquid states into a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. The formation of each piece of gold of life can be called a miracle, the embodiment of a plane's life force sedimented to its extreme. And this was precisely the main material Lei Chen would use next to forge the divine artifact. Chapter 39, Forging a Divine Artifact, the Auspicious Beast's Transformation. By the Lake of Life, Lei Chen hovered in midair, his gaze calmly sweeping over the dozens of emerald crystals before him, each one gathering the condensed life essence of the entire plane. They varied in size and shape, yet every one radiated a vitality as vast as the sea, especially the central, head-sized, dark green crystal originating from the depths of the Lake of Life. The life energy contained within was as profound as an abyss. Merely the natural, drifting fluctuations from it caused the surrounding plants and trees to grow with wild abandon. Let's begin. With a slight stir of his mind, the supreme authority of the plane master quietly activated. He slowly raised his right hand, palm facing the suspended gold of life, and gave a gentle clench. There was no earth-shattering commotion, yet those dozens of pieces of gold of life, incredibly hard, difficult to damage even under the full assault of a titled Douluo, instantly became soft and translucent, beginning to melt like glass meeting heat. Streams of emerald green liquid flowed from each piece of gold of life, as if drawn by an invisible hand, converging towards the center. They merged and permeated each other, ultimately transforming into a massive, luminous sphere resembling liquid jadeite. Inside the sphere, the life energy had concentrated to an extreme, even emitting a low, resonant hum akin to a heartbeat. Circulating emerald green light illuminated the entire Lake of Life area, rendering it dreamlike and illusory. Lei Chen's expression remained unchanged. With a light guide of his fingertip, this sphere of liquid gold of life, now condensed with the plane's life origin, flew like a nestling returning to its nest, slowly drifting towards that towering, majestic golden ancient tree, radiating a soft golden light. Thump! The moment the sphere touched the trunk of the golden ancient tree, a strange, soft sound spread out, as if striking the very origin of the world. The golden ancient tree trembled slightly throughout its entire form. The naturally formed, profound patterns on its trunk suddenly lit up, shining in mutual reflection with the emerald green sphere. The emerald green sphere was not repelled. Instead, like a drop of water soaking into a sponge, it silently merged into the trunk of the golden ancient tree, leaving only a rippling mark on the surface that continuously undulated with emerald green and golden halos. In the next moment, with the golden ancient tree at its center, an even more vast and pure life force spread outwards like a tide. Under Lei Chen's precise control, the golden ancient tree, the materialized core of the plane's life, was using its unparalleled vitality to gently nurture and temper that massive gold of life origin. Simultaneously, using his will as the plane master as a guide, Lei Chen mobilized the entire plane's laws of life, beginning the most preliminary shaping of this origin mass, laying the foundational framework of laws for its role as a vessel of life and creation. This process required time, patience, and the day and night nourishment of the plane's origin power. It was not something to be accomplished in one move. Lei Chen was in no hurry. He sat cross-legged in the air, the multicolored halo around him blending with the auras of the golden ancient tree and the Lake of Life. He entered a certain profound state, as if completely merging with this patch of heaven and earth. However, although his main body remained by the Lake of Life forging the artifact, his consciousness was not entirely focused here. As the plane master, his perception was sufficient to cover every corner of the plane. While concentrating on forging the divine artifact, he still diverted a strand of his awareness to monitor situations across the plane, especially a place not too far from the Lake of Life. Deep within the Stardew Great Forest, in a hidden place surrounded by vines and exotic flowers, lay the small den where the imperial auspicious beast, the three-eyed golden lion, usually rested. Now the three-eyed golden lion had returned. She lay prone on soft moss, her golden eyes filled with excitement and anticipation. Close behind, Baijai's figure also descended quietly, landing not far away. A gentle concern on her face, she quietly stood guard. "I'm going to begin." The three-eyed golden lion glanced back at Baijai. Receiving an encouraging look from the latter, she hesitated no longer. Concentrating her spirit, she activated the unique power within her body belonging to the auspicious beast. In that instant, the vertical eye at the center of her forehead, which had always been closed, shimmering with an eerie red light, suddenly snapped open. Hummum! A dazzling golden pillar of light erupted violently from that vertical eye, shooting straight into the clouds, dyeing a small patch of the sky golden. The light pillar did not continue to erupt. Instead, it rapidly retracted, forming a massive golden dome that completely enveloped the three-eyed golden lion's entire body. The golden light grew denser and more solid, eventually forming an oval golden cocoon roughly the height of a person. On the cocoon's surface, countless intricate and complex patterns spontaneously derived and flowed, as if containing the supreme principles of heaven and earth, yet also carrying the unique auspicious aura of the auspicious beast. Inside the cocoon, a warm and powerful force was reshaping the three-eyed golden lion's body. Bones made slight cracking sounds, flesh and blood rearranged themselves. A wonderful sense of metamorphosis spread throughout her being. She could feel her spirit beast essence transforming towards another form. Just at this critical stage of transformation, a sudden anomaly occurred. The massive dark golden origin belonging to the golden dragon king, which had lain dormant deep within her body, seemed stirred by this life origin-level metamorphosis, trembling faintly. Although it was an extremely minute tremor, an indescribable, supremely majestic aura flashed by for an instant, causing the entire golden cocoon to shake momentarily. Baijai, guarding outside, paled slightly. She could sense that terrifying aura that made her very soul tremble. Though brief, it was utterly real. She immediately took a step forward, brilliant green light erupting from her body, guarding the cocoon with even greater vigilance, fearing any mishap. Fortunately, the disturbance from the golden dragon king origin did not last long. It soon returned to dormancy, and the cocoon's shaking settled. The internal transformation process continued smoothly. Time passed bit by bit. After roughly half an hour, the golden cocoon finally began to turn transparent, its surface patterns gradually dimming and dissipating. Crack! A faint, crisp sound. A crack appeared on the cocoon's surface. Immediately after, cracks rapidly spread like a spiderweb. Finally, the entire cocoon shattered with a crash, transforming into countless golden points of light that dissipated into the air. Where the cocoon shattered, a slender figure was revealed. It was a girl who appeared to be around 14 years old. She was completely unclothed, her skin as white as freshly fallen snow, glowing with a lustrous sheen under the dappled forest light. A brilliant cascade of golden hair fell to her waist, the ends slightly curled. Her face held a touch of the youthful innocence and purity unique to a maiden. Most striking were her eyes. They were no longer bestial pupils, but like the purest rubies, clear, translucent, yet harboring deep within a hint of the liveliness and nobility belonging to the auspicious beast. At the center of her forehead, where the vertical eye once was, now remained only a faint, flame-like golden mark, adding a touch of mystery to her. Chapter 40: Wang Kia, Golden Dragon King Spirit. The successfully transformed girl somewhat clumsily moved her limbs, looking down curiously at her brand new human body. Her long legs and slender arms felt incredibly novel to her, but at the same time, there was an indescribable sense of unfamiliarity and awkwardness, as if wearing ill-fitting clothes. "How do you feel? Is anything uncomfortable?" Baijai, who had been waiting by her side, immediately stepped forward, her tone gentle yet concerned. She extended her fair fingers, gently resting them on the girl's wrist. A pure and gentle life energy probed into her body, carefully checking her post-transformation condition. A moment later, Baijai slightly exhaled in relief, a reassuring smile gracing her beautiful face. Her aura is stable, her life origin is solid, and her spirit power flows unimpeded. It seems the transformation process was very successful. As she spoke, a green light flashed in her hand, and a verdant green cloak woven from her softest downy feathers appeared. She gently draped it over the girl's smooth shoulders, covering the dazzling sight. Just then, subtle ripples spread through the space beside them, and colorful light particles converged, with Lei Chen's energy avatar quietly materializing. He smiled, his gaze falling upon the newly transformed girl with golden hair and red eyes, and nodded. "Congratulations, little one. Your transformation was very successful." Seeing Lei Chen appear, the girl's pure, ruby-like eyes immediately lit up, clearly delighted. But then, as if remembering something, she pouted slightly in dissatisfaction, looking up at Lei Chen and saying, "I've already transformed into a human now, so you can't keep calling me little one anymore." She put her hands on her hips, trying to look serious, but with her delicate features, it didn't convey much pressure. "Oh," Lei Chen looked at her with interest. "Then what do you want me to call you?" Just like humans, I need a name." The girl tilted her head, her delicate brows slightly furrowed, thinking earnestly. Although she possessed extremely high intelligence, Naming herself was clearly outside the scope of her past experience. After thinking for a long time, she couldn't come up with anything, and couldn't help but puff out her cheeks in annoyance. Watching her expression, Lei Chen couldn't help but chuckle, a hint of reminiscence flashing in his eyes. He then gently suggested, "Since you can't think of one, how about I help you? How about Wang Kia?" "Wang Kia," the girl softly repeated the name, her eyes gradually brightening. The name sounded crisp and pleasant. The more she repeated it, the more she liked it. She immediately broke into a radiant smile, like sunlight piercing through the forest canopy, dazzlingly bright. "Good, then I'll be called Wang Kia from now on." Looking at the overjoyed Wang Kia, Lei Chen couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. Wang Kia, this name remained, but the trajectory of her destiny had already become completely different from the story he knew. Without needing to experience the forcibly imposed destiny guidance, without needing to bear those heavy entanglements, she was simply herself, the imperial auspicious beast of the Stardew Great Forest, her future full of infinite possibilities. After her excitement subsided, Wang Kia immediately remembered the important matter. She sidled up to Lei Chen, tugged at his sleeve, and eagerly pressed, "Oh right, you promised that after I transformed, I would be able to surpass Dishan within 10 years. Now that I've transformed, you should tell me what to do to become that strong, right?" Lei Chen looked at the eager girl before him, smiled slightly, and said, "This matter is both difficult and simple. First, perform a spirit avatar, and let me see the specific form of your spirit after transformation." Spirit avatar. Although Wang Kia didn't deeply understand the human spirit master system, she knew basic concepts like spirit avatar. Enlightenment struck her, and with a slight thought, she tried to guide the new power within her body. Buzz! An indescribably terrifying pressure suddenly erupted from Wang Kia, not a pressure on the spirit power level, but an ancient aura originating from the life origin, transcending all living beings. Dazzling golden red light burst forth from within her, rendering her entire being as if cast from gold. Her golden long hair moved without wind, instantly becoming even more radiant, her hair tips seemingly burning with golden flames. The most astonishing change occurred on the surface of her body. A layer of fine and magnificent dark golden dragon scales instantly covered her arms, shoulders, neck, and the sides of her face. These dragon scales were not inanimate. They subtly opened and closed as if breathing, golden halos flowing along their edges, exuding a chilling sharpness and firmness. Her 10 fingers became slender, her nails transformed into sharp claws, and at their tips, even space seemed to slightly distort. The originally pale golden flame imprint on her forehead now became a clear dark golden dragon head emblem, with scarlet dragon eyes on the emblem, seemingly containing endless ferocity and power. Although it was only a preliminary avatar and did not fully reveal her beast form, at this moment, Wang Kia was like a dragon clan war goddess descended to the mortal realm, noble, majestic, and domineering. The bloodline pressure belonging to the golden dragon king made by Jai, a fierce beast herself, feel a tremor in her heart, causing her to involuntarily take half a step back, her eyes filled with shock. Lei Chen looked at the changes happening to Wang Kia, especially the pure and powerful dark golden dragon scales and that unique dragon might, and nodded knowingly. "As expected, it's just as I sensed." The scene where Wang Kia activated the golden dragon king's origin within her during her transformation, naturally, did not escape Lei Chen's eyes. That dormant golden dragon king origin, under the opportune moment of an auspicious beast's transformation, which involved a metamorphosis of the life origin, was successfully activated, beginning its initial fusion with Wang Kia's own soul and physical body. This caused the spirit she awakened after her transformation to directly ascend to the pinnacle of the dragon clan bloodline in this universe, the Golden Dragon King. And this, in Lei Chen's view, was undoubtedly a tremendous stroke of good fortune. The fusion of Wang Kia and the Golden Dragon King's origin meant that every future growth and every breakthrough she made would not only be about enhancing her own cultivation, but also actively refining and reviving this god-king-level origin. This symbiotic growth model was thousands of times more efficient than the previous passive nurturing method. The stronger Wang Kia became, the faster the Golden Dragon King's origin would recover, and the feedback from the origin's recovery would, in turn, accelerate Wang Kia's growth, forming a perfect positive feedback loop. Surpassing Dishon, perhaps it wouldn't even take 10 years. Thinking of this, Lei Chen's lips curved into a profound smile. Chapter 41, The Method to Restore the Golden Dragon King's Origin, Ice and Fire Body Tempering. Wang Kia moved her arm, covered in dark golden scales, feeling the unprecedented surge of majestic power and noble authority within her. Her ruby-like eyes were filled with wonder. Is this the spirit possession of a human spirit master? It feels so marvelous. She swung her fist, causing a low sonic boom, then looked up at Lei Chen, her tone carrying a hint of pride. During the transformation process, I deliberately activated the Golden Dragon bloodline within me, so my current spirit is the top-tier Golden Dragon among all dragon bloodlines. Lei Chen looked at the proud Wang Kia, his face still bearing that enigmatic smile, and did not correct her misunderstanding. The origin of the Golden Dragon King was of immense importance, its level far surpassing the so-called Golden Dragon. Letting her believe it was a Golden Dragon spirit now would be more conducive to her focused growth, so Lei Chen merely nodded slightly, tacitly accepting her statement. Seeing Lei Chen nod, seemingly acknowledging her claim of the strongest dragon bloodline, Wang Kia became even more proud. But then she remembered the most crucial question, and once again tugged at Lei Chen's energy-manifested sleeve, eagerly pressing. Oh, you still haven't told me. How exactly can I surpass Dai Tian within 10 years, as you said? The method is simple. Lei Chen smiled calmly, raising his hand and gently beckoning towards the distant, towering golden ancient tree. In an instant, 2 streams of light shot out from between the golden ancient tree's branches and leaves, landing in Lei Chen's palm. One was scorching hot like a flame, appearing crystalline and crimson. The other was bone-chillingly cold, a translucent ice blue. These were the essences condensed from the 2 immortal herbs he had transplanted onto the golden ancient tree, the blazing fire apricot and the octagonal mysterious ice grass. Under Lei Chen's control, these 2 masses of essence were incredibly gentle, not emitting any violent energy impact. Immediately after, Lei Chen extended his index finger, its tip sparkling with colorful light, and gently tapped Wang Kia's smooth forehead. Wang Kia felt a coolness between her brows, and a peculiar spatial coordinate imprint was branded deep into her soul. She instantly understood that she had gained the authority to open a spatial gate to a specific location at any time. I have opened the coordinates of this place for you, Lei Chen said, casually drawing an elliptical spatial ripple beside Wang Kia. Through the ripple, one could clearly see the peculiar spring on the other side, where ice and fire intertwined and mist swirled. It was precisely the ice and fire yin-yang well. This place is called the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, Lei Chen introduced. It was formed by the intertwining of the origin powers of the Water Dragon King and the Fire Dragon King after their demise, creating a natural treasure basin that contains the ultimate power of ice and fire. And for you, the greatest opportunity here is not the superficial ice and fire energy, but the pure dragon power that settled deep within the spring, left behind after the demise of those 2 dragon lords. As he spoke, Lei Chen gestured for Wang Kia to take the 2 masses of immortal herb essence. You should consume the essences of these 2 immortal herbs. They will help you better adapt to and guide the power of the ice and fire yin-yang well. After that, you can frequently immerse yourself in this spring, using the dragon power left by the ice and fire dragon kings to temper yourself. This will be of immense benefit to the growth of your golden dragon bloodline and the improvement of your cultivation. Wang Kia possessed the power of destiny, and her perception was extremely keen. She could clearly feel that the 2 masses of immortal herb essence in her hand and the aura of the ice and fire yin-yang well on the other side of the spatial gate shared the same origin and perfectly matched, instantly believing Lei Chen's words. Thinking of being able to cultivate with the power left by the 2 ice and fire dragon lords, a brilliant smile immediately appeared on her face. She then carefully put away the 2 masses of immortal herb essence and nodded, saying, "I understand, thank you, I will definitely come often to soak." After making arrangements for Wang Kia, Lei Chen's gaze turned to Bai Jai, who stood quietly beside him. "Bai Jai, what are your commands, honored one?" Bai Jai respectfully responded. "After I leave this time, you may ascend the golden ancient tree to cultivate." Lei Chen granted her the corresponding permission. The concentration and level of life energy on the golden ancient tree are far beyond what the lakeside offers. Cultivating there, your cultivation speed will increase by at least more than double. Lei Chen's decision to allow Bai Jai to cultivate on the golden ancient tree in the future naturally had his considerations. The faster Bai Jai's cultivation improved, the sooner she would attract the next, and even subsequent, heavenly tribulations. The power of heavenly tribulations for Lei Chen was excellent nourishment for the thunder god origin. With such benefits, Lei Chen naturally wouldn't be stingy in opening up the golden ancient tree to her. Upon hearing this, an uncontrollable look of pleasant surprise instantly appeared on Bai Jai's beautiful face. Her cultivation speed by the Lake of Life was already extremely fast. If she could ascend this golden ancient tree, the effect was simply unimaginable. She bowed deeply, her voice filled with gratitude. Bai Jai prostrates herself in thanks for Honored One's immense grace. I will diligently cultivate and not fail Honored One's expectations. Lei Chen nodded slightly and continued, additionally, I entrust you with a responsibility. Currently, many immortal herbs have been transplanted onto the golden ancient tree by me. While cultivating there, you must look after them. If you see them condense essence or bear fruit, reaching the optimal harvest time, collect them promptly and store them properly. Bai Jai was meticulous, making her the perfect person to care for these immortal herbs. Therefore, upon hearing the task Lei Chen assigned, she immediately solemnly agreed. Honored one, please rest assured, Bai Jai will diligently care for them and not fail your trust. Seeing that everything was settled and all had been said, Lei Chen's energy avatar transformed into specks of colorful light, dissipating into the air. His consciousness had already returned to his main body, which was refining artifacts by the Lake of Life. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. By the lake, Lei Chen slowly opened his eyes, continuing to melt the gold of life while reviewing his arrangements for Wang Kia, then nodded. Before the Silver Dragon King went into seclusion to heal, she had entrusted the 3-eyed golden lion, which nurtured the golden dragon king's origin, to him. Now, the 3-eyed golden lion had perfectly transformed, and under his arrangements, the extremely weak golden dragon king's origin was also about to begin recovering its power. He had initially fulfilled this trust. With his thoughts settled, Lei Chen no longer pondered. Currently, successfully refining his divine artifact, as soon as possible, was the fundamental way to improve his strength. So Lei Chen collected his thoughts. Apart from a few places he had to pay attention to, he once again immersed most of his consciousness into the refining process before him. Divine power surged around him, intertwining and resonating with the vast life aura of the Lake of Life, getting the liquid gold of life, which had merged with the golden ancient tree, to slowly take shape and transform towards its final form. The lakeside once again fell into a profound, silent atmosphere, with only the misty life essence on the lake's surface gently flowing. Chapter 42, Wang Kia arrives, Jangli Wu's stirring intentions. By the shores of the Lake of Life, Lei Chen's true body remained immersed in the refinement of the divine artifact. A 7-colored halo flowed and intermingled with the majestic vitality of the golden ancient tree and the Lake of Life. That massive liquid gold of life merged into the tree trunk was constantly undergoing transformation under the nourishment of the plane's source power. At the same time, deep within the Stardew Great Forest, the auspicious beast, who had just finished her human transformation and received the name Wang Kia, was already somewhat impatient. She felt the power brought by the formidable spirit named Golden Dragon within her body, filled with yearning for the path Lei Chen promised, to surpass Daitian in 10 years. With a single thought, the pale gold flame mark on her forehead heated up slightly. An oval spatial gate silently unfolded before Wang Kia. From behind the gate came a strange aura where ice and fire intertwined, containing a resonance that made her bloodline faintly thrum. Wang Kia looked back and gave Bai Jai, who was guarding nearby, a reassuring smile. She then took a deep breath and stepped into the spatial gate. Light and shadow shifted. In the next moment, she found herself in that mountain-enclosed valley basin, the ice and fire yin-yang well. An extremely dense heaven and earth essence rushed toward her. The extreme cold of the icy spring and the scorching heat of the fiery spring alternately stimulated her skin, making the newly transformed Wang Kia, whose senses were particularly sharp, unable to resist a shiver. However, the dark gold source within her body also seemed to become a trace more active, sending a wave of comfortable warmth through her. She curiously sized up this wondrous sight, her gaze quickly drawn to the distinctly divided spring waters. However, almost at the moment she appeared, several gazes, some searching, some cold, landed squarely on her. Wang Kia's heart tightened. Following her intuition, she looked over and saw 7 figures remarkably present within the waters of the ice and fire yin-yang well. These 7 people had different auras, but without exception, they all radiated heart-palpitatingly powerful fluctuations. Possessing the power of destiny, Wang Kia's perception far exceeded that of ordinary people. Although she couldn't accurately judge their specific levels, she could clearly feel that every one of these 7 was extremely dangerous. Their strength was likely not inferior to some of the great beasts in the Stardew Great Forest. Why are there so many people here, and they're all so strong? Wang Kia instinctively raised her guard. She kept Bai Jai's teachings firmly in mind. Be cautious when outside, especially when facing unknown experts. The 7 people in the spring also cast their gazes the moment Wang Kia appeared. Seeing that the newcomer was just a young girl who looked 14 or 15 years old, whose aura was strange but whose spirit power fluctuations didn't seem very strong, a flash of surprise crossed their eyes, followed mostly by confusion. Arriving so abruptly through a spatial gate made these top-tier experts somewhat unable to gauge Wang Kia's background, so naturally, they would not act rashly. Nguyen and Xuanzai exchanged a glance and shook their heads slightly, signaling to wait and see. Dubussy grinned, thinking this little slip of a girl was somewhat interesting, but didn't think much of it. Kong Deeming was more curious about the technology of the spatial gate itself. Yizishui and Long Zairao's eyes flickered, but they also suppressed their thoughts. Thus, after their initial scrutiny, the experts regained their composure and continued to use the power of the spring water to temper their bodies, merely setting aside a sliver of intent to monitor the movements here. Seeing that the crowd didn't seem to intend to pay her any mind, Wang Kia was happy for the peace. Her goal was the ice and fire yin-yang well. Following Lei Chen's instructions, she was to take the immortal herb essences and then soak in the springs. Thus, she carefully bypassed the positions where the others were and walked toward the edge of the water. However, just as she approached the spring and prepared to take out the 2 clumps of immortal herb essence, a sudden change occurred. Buzz! An extremely faint hum that carried a soul-trembling vibration rang out from the side of the ice and fire yin-yang well near the scorching yang spring. There, a massive dragon-shaped creature composed entirely of pitch-black bones was half-submerged in the spring water. Pale blue flames flickered in its eye sockets, and its entire body radiated a dense aura of death and evil. It was precisely Jangli Wu's life-bound beast soul, the Bone Dragon King. This Bone Dragon King had been a powerful true dragon in life, and had even by chance been tainted by a sliver of the Silver Dragon King's escaping aura, causing its essence to undergo a mutation that far exceeded ordinary dragon bones. Back then, Jangli Wu had spent immense effort to refine it into his life-bound beast soul. Relying on its compatibility with his own death god demon puppet spirit, his cultivation was able to soar all the way to level 98. At this moment, the Bone Dragon King's hollow eye sockets were facing Wang Kia's direction. The spectral fires flickered violently, and even its massive skeletal body emitted a slight tremor. Jangli Wu, who was just about to begin tempering his beast soul, snapped his eyes open. His sinister gaze instantly locked onto Wang Kia. He was mentally connected to the Bone Dragon King, and could clearly feel that this incredibly precious life-bound beast soul of his was currently transmitting an extremely complex emotion. There was an indescribable longing, a sliver of fear rooted in instinct, but more than anything, a violent agitation as if it had encountered a higher-level existence. This girl, Jangli Wu's heart shook violently. This Bone Dragon King had been refined by him as a life-bound beast soul for many years, having devoured the souls and remains of countless powerful spirit beasts. Its ferocity was already heaven-shaking. Even when facing an existence like Daitian, it would only explode with bloodthirsty battle intent. When had it ever shown this kind of agitation bordering on reverence? When things are abnormal, there must be a reason. This girl who suddenly appeared is definitely not simple. She must have a secret that can cause the Bone Dragon King to react, perhaps some kind of supreme treasure, or perhaps some special bloodline. Regardless, I must find out. Greed and the desire to investigate instantly overrode his initial caution. A fierce light flashed in Jangli Wu's eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold arc. He slowly stood up, the phantom of the death god demon puppet looming behind him. A gloomy and eerie aura began to envelop Wang Kia. "Little girl, who are you? Why can you come to this place? What do you have on you?" Jangli Wu's voice was raspy and cold, carrying an unquestionable sense of pressure that immediately drew the gazes of the other experts back over. Xuanzai's brow furrowed slightly. Dubussy crossed his arms with the look of someone watching a play. Kong Deming was lost in thought. Yizishui and Long Xiaorao exchanged a look and remained silent. Muen gave a light sigh, but did not immediately speak up to stop him. He also wanted to see what was special about this girl who had suddenly arrived here. Wang Kia stopped her steps and turned around, her pure ruby-like eyes meeting Jangli Wu's cold gaze. Facing the pressure of this super Douluo, although she felt a wave of discomfort, and her internal blood and Kai churned slightly, the pride originating from the Golden Dragon King bloodline prevented her from showing any fear. Instead, she slightly tilted her chin up. "Why I am here is none of your business," Wang Kia's voice was clear, carrying a hint of coldness. Chapter 43, Stirring Up Trouble, Summoning the Ice and Fire Dragon Kings. "Sharp-tongued brat." Wang Kia's cold, unyielding reply made Jangli Wu sneer, a fierce light flashing in his eyes. He was never a patient man to begin with. Seeing Wang Kia's attitude, he wasted no more words. Spirit power surged around him. The phantom of the death god demon puppet abruptly expanded, and a pitch-black ink-like ghostly hand tore through the air, carrying a bone-chilling, sinister wind as it shot straight for Wang Kia. A full power strike from a level 98 Super Douluo, how terrifying was its might. Wherever the ghostly hand passed, space rippled. The dense aura of death caused the plants by the spring to instantly wither. Although Wang Kia possessed the origin of the Golden Dragon King, she had only recently taken human form and her cultivation was still shallow. Under the pressure of this terrifying force, she felt her entire body tighten, her movements becoming sluggish. For the first time, a trace of gravity flashed in her ruby-like eyes. Just as that ghostly hand was about to seize Wang Kia, an angry roar exploded like thunder. "Evil filth, how dare you act so viciously!" A thick, earthy yellow light, arriving later but striking first, materialized like a mountain range, blocking the space between Wang Kia and the ghostly hand. As the light faded, it revealed Xuanzai's figure, as steady as Mount Tai. The phantom of the gluttonous divine bull around him roared towards the sky. Then he threw a punch, the fist wind solidifying like a giant hammer, crashing fiercely into the pitch-black ghostly hand. Boom! The collision of the two terrifying energies produced a dull, thunderous blast. A violent shockwave swept outwards from the two as the center, churning the waters of the ice and fire yin-yang well into turbulent waves. Xuanzai's body swayed slightly before stabilizing, while Jangli Wu was shaken back half a step, his expression turning even darker. "Xuanzai," Jangli Wu's voice was as cold and piercing as ice. "What business is it of yours if I capture this girl? A dog trying to catch a rat, meddling in affairs that are none of your concern." Blocking Wang Kia, Xuanzai scanned Jangli Wu, and the slowly rising figures of Yizishui and Long Xiaorao behind him, his gaze sharp as lightning, his face full of disdain and fury. "I've long been disgusted by you lot who skulk in the shadows. If not for the plain master bringing you here, who could have imagined such powerful evil beings had quietly emerged on the Douluo. Now that you've been exposed in broad daylight, how can this old man stand by and watch you commit violence? Dream on if you think you can capture someone right before my eyes." His words were righteous and forceful, shaking the valley. The peak level 98 spirit power from his body was released without restraint, forming a stark contrast to Jangli Wu's sinister aura, filled with a heavy, oppressive force. Jangli Wu narrowed his eyes slightly, a dangerous glint flashing in their slits. "Old fool, are you sure you want to oppose me?" Xuanzai couldn't even be bothered to reply again. He simply made the earthy yellow light around him blaze even brighter, the gluttonous phantom roaring skyward, using action to declare his stance. HMPH, seeing this, Jangli Wu snorted coldly and glanced towards Yizishui beside him. Yizishui frowned slightly. She hadn't originally intended to completely tear face with the Shrek side here, but seeing her son thwarted and the other party's unyielding attitude, she naturally couldn't stand idly by. Her blood-red robe stirred without wind. The terrifying pressure of a level 99 limit Douluo spread out like a raging sea of blood. She took a step forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Zhangli Wu, her cold gaze locking onto Xuanzai. Long Xiao remained silent, the aura of the dark holy dragon deep as an abyss. He followed closely beside Yigui, making his position clear. On Xuanzai's side, Muan let out a soft sigh, yet his slightly hunched figure straightened a bit. A gentle yet vast aura of the light holy dragon rose up, like sunlight dispelling gloom, holding its own against Yigui's sea of blood. On the other side, Debussy grinned, revealing his stark white teeth. Having just successfully condensed a second soul core and broken through to level 99 thanks to the Star Loot Spirit Pearl bestowed by Lei Chen, he was itching for a chance to test his newfound power. The violent aura of his body spirit also shot skyward, his muscles bulging with a sense of immense strength. He flanked Xuanzai on the other side, together with Muan, forming a protective formation. For a moment, a delicate 3 versus 3 balance formed in the field. Both sides consisted of 2 level 99 limit Douluos and 1 level 98 super Douluo, their strength perfectly matched. Their auras clashed, making the air in the entire valley seem to solidify, oppressive enough to suffocate. Everyone's gaze turned towards the 7th person in the field, who had yet to declare a stance, Kong Deming. The father of spirit tools for the Sun-Moon Empire now wore an expressionless face, his eyes as calm as an ancient well. Logically, since the Holy Spirit cult had secretly established relations with the Sun-Moon Empire, he should stand on Yigui's side. However, deep down, he held extreme contempt for the practices of evil soul masters who cultivated by harming living beings. Asking him to help evil soul masters capture a seemingly harmless young girl was something he simply could not bring himself to do. Therefore, facing the probing gazes from both sides, Kong Deming simply closed his eyes. Several spirit tool cores around him flickered faintly, adopting a posture of neutrality, staying out of the conflict. Just at this tense moment of stalemate, Wang Kia, the catalyst for it all, looked at the two groups of people on the verge of drawing weapons over her and finally spoke again. Her delicate brows slightly furrowed, her clear voice carrying a trace of impatience and chill. "You people are truly incomprehensible." She had come here to cultivate following Lei Chen's instructions, not wanting to have any interaction with these strangers. But the situation before her clearly could not be resolved peacefully. "Since you're all so restless," a flash of golden light passed through Wang Kia's ruby-like eyes. The faint golden mark on her forehead suddenly brightened, emitting an unfathomably profound fluctuation. "Then don't blame me." Before her words faded, a strange, intangible light, seemingly containing the trajectory of fate, shot out from the mark on her brow. It didn't attack anyone, but instead shot straight into the very center of the ice and fire yin-yang wells waters not far away. Huamum! The entire valley shook violently. The clearly demarcated icy spring and fiery spring, stirred by this light of fate, seemed to be infused with a soul. Zra! Zra! Two soul-shaking dragon roars erupted from the depths of the spring. The next moment, under the astonished gazes of everyone present, the two differently colored waters of the lake abruptly surged skyward. The ice-blue water transformed into a crystalline frost dragon, exuding absolute cold. The crimson-red water coalesced into a blazing fire dragon burning with scorching heat. The two giant dragons were completely composed of the purest essence of ice and fire. Their massive dragon soul phantoms coiled upwards, their dragon eyes glaring angrily as they looked down upon the tiny humans below. Their vast draconic majesty, like a tangible tsunami, instantly overwhelmed the aura clash of all the powerhouses present. The dragon souls of the ice and fire dragon kings had actually manifested into the world, stirred by Wang Kia's power of fate. The 6 powerhouses who had been locked in stalemate all had their expressions changed drastically. They all withdrew their auras. Looking up with shock and uncertainty at the 2 awe-inspiring giant dragon souls in the air, even Kong Deming, who had removed himself from the conflict, snapped his eyes open, filled with astonishment. Her golden hair flying, Wang Kia stood beneath the dragon souls of the 2 giant dragons, like an emperor of dragons. Chapter 44, The Might of the Divine, Life and Death in a Single Thought. The moment the ice and fire dragon souls materialized, an indescribably terrifying pressure, like a tangible tsunami, instantly swept through the entire ice and fire yin-yang well valley. This was not mere spirit power oppression, but a shivering sensation born from an absolute gap in life hierarchy and soul origin. The 7 powerhouses, who mere moments ago were bristling with hostility and imposing auras, now seemed to transform into tiny boats adrift in a raging storm under this vast divine might. Even breathing became immensely difficult. The radiant spirit power glow surrounding them was forcefully suppressed back into their bodies, and the previously clashing, surging auras melted away like snow, vanishing without a trace. Jangli Wu, bearing the brunt of it, turned deathly pale, cold sweat instantly soaking through his back. His pupils contracted violently as he stared fixedly at the two colossal dragon phantoms circling in the air, his mind churning with towering waves of shock. Divine level, that is absolutely power at the divine level. This girl, just what is her origin? Endless regret surged in his heart. He had never imagined that this seemingly easy-to-handle little girl actually possessed such a terrifying trump card, directly summoning the dragon spirits slumbering within the spring. The auras of these two dragon spirits far exceeded their comprehension, undoubtedly reaching the divine realm. Crushing them would be simpler than squashing ants. In truth, Lei Chen, having already arranged for Mu En and other top powerhouses of the continent to cultivate their bodies here, felt assured in sending Wang Kia precisely because he had made thorough preparations. This ice and fire yin-yang well was formed from the fallen bodies of the Ice Dragon King and the Fire Dragon King. Deep within its core, it not only contained pure draconic power, but also housed the unyielding dragon spirits of the two Dragon Kings. Before their fall, the Frost and Fire Dragon Kings were both powerful first-rank deities. Even now, reduced to dragon spirits with less than 1/100th of their original power, they still retained strength at the divine level as a baseline. Dealing with these so-called powerhouses before them, who hadn't even touched the threshold of divinity, was more than sufficient, fully guaranteeing Wang Kia's absolute safety in this place. Just as the seven were immobilized, not daring to move an inch under the dragon spirit's pressure, the Frost Dragon and Fire Dragon spirits did not launch an attack. Instead, their two pairs of enormous draconic eyes slowly turned, finally settling on the golden-haired, red-eyed girl below. In the next moment, a scene occurred that left everyone dumbfounded. The two dragon spirits, radiating boundless majesty and destructive aura, actually slowly lowered their proud heads. Their massive phantoms intimately coiled around Wang Kia, swirling. Intertwining halos of icy blue and crimson red set off the girl like a dragon emperor descended to the mortal world. The Ice Dragon King's spirit even cautiously extended a dragon whisker condensed from frigid air, gently touching Wang Kia's arm, while the Fire Dragon spirit emitted a low, almost filial whimper. How is this possible? Mu En's turbid eyes erupted with a light of utter disbelief. Yi Zishui and Long Xiaorao exchanged a glance, each seeing profound shock in the other's eyes. Dubussy's jaw dropped open. Xuanzai wore an expression of complete stupefaction. Kong Diming was nearly shocked out of his wits. They utterly failed to comprehend why these two dragon spirits, clearly having reached the divine level, would show such a degree of affection and submission towards a girl whose spirit power fluctuations weren't particularly strong. Just what was this girl's identity? Could she be the reincarnation of the dragon god? Various speculations exploded like thunderclaps in the hearts of the seven, yet none dared to voice a question. Surrounded intimately by the two dragon spirits, Wang Kia seemed to have anticipated this scene all along. She gently patted the Ice Dragon King Phantom's whisker, then raised her pure yet cold ruby-red eyes. Her gaze pierced through the dragon spirit's protection, landing precisely on Jangli Wu, whose face was ashen. Locked by Wang Kia's indifferent gaze, Jangli Wu felt a chill shoot from the soles of his feet straight to the crown of his head, his very soul trembling. He had no doubt that with just a single thought from this girl, those two divine-level dragon spirits could instantly tear him to shreds, annihilating both body and soul. Just as Jangli Wu was nearly consumed by terror, Wang Kia's clear, cool voice rang out, shattering the deathly silence. "You said earlier that it was the Plane Master who brought you here, allowing you to cultivate in this place." This plain inquiry sounded like heavenly music to Jangli Wu's ears. He seemed to have grasped a lifeline and nodded frantically. "Yes, yes, 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 respected. Young lady, it was indeed the Plane Master who gathered us here, permitting us to use this place's divine effects to temper our bodies. A moment ago, this lowly one was blind and ignorant, offending you, young lady. This lowly one was foolish, blinded by greed, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. I beg you, young lady, to be magnanimous and forgive this offense just once." He spoke extremely fast, his posture exceedingly humble. Not a trace of his previous sinister arrogance remained, only the relief of a narrow escape and a humble plea. Wang Kia looked at the now obsequious, constantly begging Jangli Wu before her, her delicate brows slightly furrowing, a flash of unconcealed disgust in her eyes. By nature pure, she detested this kind of person who bullied the weak, feared the strong, and harbored dark intentions. If it were up to her own temper, she would have directly ordered the ice and fire dragon souls to smash this offender who had dared to provoke her into dust to vent her anger. However, recalling that Lei Chen must have had deep intentions and plans for arranging these people here to cultivate, she, though straightforward by nature, understood propriety. She did not wish to disrupt Lei Chen's plans because of her own momentary anger. Thinking this, Wang Kia suppressed the displeasure in her heart, cast a cold glance at Jangli Wu, and paid him no further mind. She withdrew her gaze and instead looked at the two dragon spirits intimately coiling around her. With a light wave of her hand, the ice and fire dragon souls seemed to understand her intention. Emitting low dragon roars, their massive phantoms slowly sank back into the spring water, and the suffocating, terrifying pressure receded like a tide. The valley returned to tranquility, but the shock left in the hearts of the 7 powerhouses could not settle for a long time. After this incident, no one dared to show the slightest contempt or negligence towards Wang Kia. Wang Kia, ignoring the complex gazes of the others, walked directly to the edge of the spring, took out the 2 clumps of immortal herb essence, and prepared to begin her own cultivation. Watching Wang Kia completely ignore him, and as if no one else was present, begin refining the immortal herb essence using the energy of the ice and fire yin-yang well, Jangli Wu's taut nerves finally relaxed completely. A sense of exhaustion from his narrow escape instantly spread throughout his body. The robes on his back, long soaked through with cold sweat, clung tightly to his skin, bringing a chilling, clammy sensation. However, alongside the relief, an uncontrollable, twisted jealousy and hatred gnawed at his heart like a venomous serpent. He clenched his fists tightly, nails digging deep into his palms, bringing a sharp pain that was far less intense than the humiliation and resentment currently consuming him. He, Jangli Wu, the esteemed leader of the Holy Spirit cult, a figure who commanded great influence across the continent, yet today, before a seemingly immature girl, his life and death hung entirely on her whim. He didn't even possess the qualification to make her take action. Merely being ignored by her was already the best outcome. This feeling of having his life held casually in another's hand, of being as weak and insignificant as an ant, was like the sharpest awl, brutally piercing the pride and ambition he had long relied upon for survival. Divine level. Jangli Wu roared silently in his heart, a near-mad flame igniting deep within his eyes. Only by stepping into the divine level can I grasp my own destiny. Today's humiliation will surely be washed away in the future with divine level power. Chapter 45, Time Flows, the Divine Artifact is finally complete. The brief conflict that occurred in the ice and fire yin-yang well valley was nothing more than an insignificant ripple in the operation of the plane to Lei Chen, who was far away in the core of the Stardew Great Forest forging a divine artifact, and utterly unworthy of his attention. This was because he truly had the utmost confidence in Wang Kia's safety. Not to mention the lingering dragon souls of the Fire Dragon King and Ice Dragon King within the ice and fire yin-yang well would naturally feel affinity towards her, who bore the Golden Dragon King's origin within her. Wang Kia's own power of fate alone was sufficient to ensure she turned misfortune into fortune in the vast majority of situations. Therefore, Lei Chen did not pay excessive attention to the situation at the ice and fire yin-yang well. Had he known that this minor incident would, through a strange twist of fate, provoke Jangli Wu, planting in his heart the seed of an obsession to break through to the god level at any cost, he would likely have shown a rare approving smile. This Jangli Wu possessed both talent and ruthlessness, but due to his evil soul master temperament, he was often easily swayed by various desires and emotions. This was the greatest obstacle to his breakthrough past the level 100 barrier. Now, having been utterly crushed by Wang Kia relying on the power of a god-level dragon soul, this experience where life and death rested solely on the whim of a god-level powerhouse could instead ignite Jangli Wu's determination to break through to level 100. His originally perhaps less than 30% chance of success, stimulated by this event, was likely elevated to over 50%. This was undoubtedly good news for Yigui, who needed a god-level sacrifice to recast the angel-god position. Of course, all of this was for later. Back at the ice and fire yin-yang well, those 7 so-called top powerhouses of the Douluo had come to fully recognize one fact. That golden-haired, red-eyed young woman's background and potential were unfathomable, and she was absolutely not someone they could afford to provoke. Thus, the originally somewhat subtle atmosphere in the valley instead became purified. Everyone restrained their own thoughts, and devoted their full energy to the cultivation of tempering their bodies with the power of ice and fire, and comprehending the innate secret method asterisk. As time passed, this heaven and earth treasure basin grew increasingly lively. Apart from cultivating here, these 7 powerhouses would occasionally leave, return to their respective factions, pass down the optimized asterisk, the innate secret method asterisk, and bring the super Douluos from their factions with spirit power cultivation above level 95 to train at the ice and fire yin-yang well. For a time, this originally remote valley became a gathering place for the Douluo's top powerhouses. Between the icy cold of the ice spring and the blazing heat of the fire spring, spirit masters from different factions, of different alignments, for the same goal, to break through mortal limits and touch the god-level realm, formed a peculiar cultivation-centric atmosphere of tacit understanding. Spring gave way to autumn, cold and heat exchanged seasons. Over half a year's time slipped away quietly within this intense cultivation atmosphere. During this half-year, the situation on the Douluo was also undergoing profound, quiet changes. Shrek Academy officially announced the removal of all statues of the sea god Tang San from its grounds, renaming the sea god lake to Mirror Lake, Sea God Island to Gathering Sages Island, and the Sea God Pavilion to Pillar of Heaven Pavilion, triggering widespread discussion and speculation within the Douluo spirit master community. The body sect officially made the innate secret method public, igniting a body-tempering frenzy in the spirit master world. Many spirit masters stuck at bottlenecks saw new hope. Having obtained the alchemical inheritance from another plane, the Sun-Moon Empire's spirit tool research seemed to enter a new explosive period. The occasional leaked new spirit tools displayed design philosophies vastly different from before. Meanwhile, Yigui, wielding the angelic sacred sword, moved like the most precise hunter through the Douluo's dark corners, guided by the evil soul master distribution map in her mind. The light of her holy sword grew increasingly radiant with each purification. The source of all these changes pointed to that plane master who sat by the lake of life, seemingly fused with heaven and earth. The core of the Stardew Great Forest, the Lake of Life. The life energy here had reached an unbelievable level of density. The milky white spiritual mist over the lake had almost condensed into liquid. The exotic flowers and rare grasses along the shore breathed in and out radiant light, each leaf seemingly carved from jadeite. That majestic golden ancient tree flowed with a soft, eternal golden halo. Its trunk grew even thicker, its crown blotting out the sky, as if supporting this very heaven and earth. Lei Chen sat cross-legged by the lakeshore, his form utterly motionless for over half a year. His aura was completely integrated with the entire lake of life and the golden ancient tree. If not for being visible to the naked eye, his presence was almost imperceptible. And today, he slowly opened eyes that had been closed for a very long time. Those deep pupils no longer reflected simple lakes and mountains, but countless intricate, dense threads of lore containing life's birth, growth, prosperity, and cycle. His gaze penetrated the solid trunk of the golden ancient tree, landing upon its internal core. There, the originally jade-green, liquid-flowing gold of life, after over half a year of day and night nourishment from the golden ancient tree's origin and the continuous inscription and tempering by the laws of life guided by Lei Chen's plain will, had undergone a fundamental transformation. Its color gradually shifted from initial emerald green to jade gold, finally settling into an incredibly pure, incredibly noble, brilliant gold. Its form was no longer simple liquid, but had transformed into a golden sphere roughly the size of a fist, perfectly round and flawless. The surface of the sphere seemed naturally inscribed, with countless profound patterns finer than a hair by billions of times. These patterns were not static but slowly flowed, performing the origin and evolution of life, containing the ultimate mysteries of their entire Douluo Plane's laws of life. It floated quietly within the core of the golden ancient tree, like a slumbering emperor awaiting the moment of its awakening. Gazing at that golden sphere, Lei Chen's eyes suddenly brightened. He slowly raised both hands, forming a strange and ancient seal before his chest, a seal that seemed to commune with that very first wisp of the source of life from the dawn of heaven and earth. Ahem. A clear, resonant sound, not transmitted through air, but directly reverberating within the souls of all living beings in the Stardew Great Forest, suddenly spread outwards from the golden ancient tree. The next moment, the golden ancient tree erupted with indescribably dazzling golden light. This golden light was not simple illumination, but a highly condensed manifestation of the laws of life. A pillar of light shot skyward, piercing the clouds, dyeing the sky's clouds golden as if plating the entire firmament with a sacred radiance. The golden light rapidly spread and expanded like a golden tide, sweeping over every corner of the forest. Whether towering ancient trees or lush grass, whether 10-year spirit beasts or 100,000-year ferocious beasts, at this moment, all felt a warmth and joy originating from the very origin of life, as if the entire forest's vitality was cheering, rejoicing. The Stardew Great Forest, at this moment, transformed into a golden ocean, a sacred land of life. The grand phenomenon lasted for roughly 10 breaths. Then, that sky-piercing golden pillar of light began to retract, ultimately converging upon the trunk of the golden ancient tree. Under Lei Chen's calm gaze, that brilliant golden sphere, like a ripening fruit, slowly emerged from within the trunk. It separated from the golden ancient tree and floated lightly before Lei Chen. Lei Chen reached out and grasped this brilliant golden sphere that converged the plane's essence of life and was inscribed with the laws of life. It felt warm and smooth to the touch, not heavy, but instead giving a sense of connection like a bloodline, as natural as moving one's own arm. He could clearly feel the vast, sea-like life origin and power of creation contained within. A trace of a satisfied smile finally appeared at the corner of Lei Chen's mouth. He murmured softly to himself, his voice carrying a hint of imperceptible emotion and accomplishment. It is done. Chapter 46, Super Divine Artifact, Guardian Armor of Living Beings. In his palm, the brilliant golden sphere, which gathered the essence of the plane's life and was inscribed with the law of life, trembled slightly, emitting a clear hum that resonated with Lei Chen's heartbeat as if it were alive. With a slight thought from Lei Chen, the brilliant golden sphere turned into a warm stream of light, spreading like flowing mercury and instantly covering his entire body. Wherever the light passed, a set of full-body armor that fit his form perfectly quietly emerged. The entire armor displayed a deep and noble dark gold color. It was not the cold, hard luster of metal, but rather like the texture of ancient divine wood or an extension of life's pathways, flowing with a soft and restrained glow. Wearing the complete set of armor, Lei Chen did not feel the slightest weight or restraint. Instead, he felt as if he had put on a layer of life's skin, fitting perfectly. Vast and gentle life energy circulated inside and outside the armor, connecting his breath with that of the entire plane. After sensing the changes brought by the armor for a moment, a satisfied curve couldn't help but tug at the corner of Lei Chen's mouth. Gathering the essence of the plane's gold of life, nurtured by the life core and inscribed with the law of life, this armor shall be named Guardian Armor of Living Beings. Forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. He softly decided on the name for this set of armor, and the grade of this Guardian Armor of Living Beings had surprisingly reached the level of a super divine artifact. This was no exaggeration. One must know that even a small piece of naturally formed, unrefined gold of life, with its vast vitality and immortal properties, would already be equivalent to an ordinary divine artifact. To forge this armor, Lei Chen had gathered almost all the gold of life scattered throughout the Douluo Plane. He had nurtured it day and night for over half a year with the plane's life core, and finally, using his authority as the plane master, he branded the most fundamental laws of life and creation of the Douluo Plane into it. With so many heaven-defying conditions stacked together and so much effort expended, the final achievement of a super divine artifact was truly a natural and logical outcome. As a super divine artifact grade armor, the basic defensive power of the Guardian Armor of Living Beings went without saying. It was enough to withstand the fierce attacks of experts of the same level without budging. However, its most powerful and core characteristic was not simple sturdiness, but rather what its name implied, Life Guardian. Putting on this armor was equivalent to being granted a layer of nearly eternal, undying blessing. No matter how severe the injury, with the support of the terrifying life force contained within the Guardian Armor of Living Beings, which could be considered a plane-level reserve, it could be repaired instantly at an incredible speed. Even if it encountered an instant death attack, such as soul annihilation or origin collapse, injuries that would mean certain death even for god-level experts, the Guardian Armor of Living Beings could forcibly lock in the wearer's last shred of vitality and sustain their life. It could be said that with this super divine artifact, Lei Chen's survivability would be maxed out, reaching a height that would drive others to despair. As long as the plane did not completely collapse and the law of life were not entirely annihilated, it would be difficult for him to die. Lei Chen was very satisfied with this masterpiece he had forged himself. Then, with a thought, the dark golden light flowed, and the guardian armor of living beings quietly vanished into his body. He then fully expanded his perception as the plane master, covering the entire Douluo Plane like an invisible tide. During this past half-year, his main energy had been focused on forging the guardian armor of living beings, and the part of his consciousness he had set aside only paid attention to a few key areas of this plane. Now that the divine artifact was complete, he naturally had to take a good look at how his plane had developed under the new rules and his guidance over the past half-year. His vast and boundless will, like an invisible tide, instantly swept across their entire Douluo, passing over mountains, rivers, cities, villages, sects, and families. Countless streams of information flowed into Lei Chen's heart, where they were quickly organized and analyzed. When his perception swept over certain specific areas, the expression on his face couldn't help but become somewhat subtle, carrying a sense of as expected realization, yet mixed with a hint of surprise at the efficiency of these fellows' actions. These guys are quite fast, and they're certainly decisive enough. Lei Chen muttered to himself, his gaze seemingly piercing through the void to see certain little maneuvers recently made by Shrek Academy and the Body Sect. In his perception, not long ago, the higher-ups of Shrek Academy had used either coercion or inducement to exchange, for the essence of the core inheritance, the mysterious heaven treasure record from the already declining Tang sect, especially the cultivation method of the purple demon eye, which was said to nurture mental power and enhance spiritual awareness. On the Body Sect's side, their style of action was even more direct and overbearing. Debussy personally led several sect elders to the 9 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Relying on his level 99 tyrannical strength, through a mix of negotiation and pressure, he actually forced the long-standing 9 Treasure Glazed Tile School to voluntarily share its sect's secret technique, the 9 Aperture Glazed Heart, which could enhance mental power. Although this development was completely within Lei Chen's expectations, seeing their actions be so swift still caught him a bit by surprise. This situation was actually quite normal, because when Lei Chen had gathered the 7 powerhouses in the undead demi-plane, he had clearly stated what a demigod was. As long as the physical body transformed into a divine body, or the mental power transformed into divine sense, achieving either one would make one a demigod. The speaker might have been indifferent, but the listeners were certainly attentive. Mu En and those other old monsters, who had been stuck at the level 99 bottleneck for many years, which of them wasn't as shrewd as a fox? They immediately thought at the time, since achieving either one makes one a demigod, then if both the physical body and the spirit transform, reaching a realm where one possesses both a divine body and divine sense, wouldn't that directly make one a true level 100 deity? However, at that time, Lei Chen only had Debussy go public with their innate secret method for cultivating the divine body, but he did not provide a supreme method specifically for cultivating mental power. Thus, they could only find a way themselves. Naturally, the first ones targeted were the Tang sect's purple demon eye and the 9 Treasure Glazed Tile School's 9 Aperture Glazed Heart method. The Tang sect's purple demon eye needs no further explanation. It can enhance one's mental power by absorbing the purple kai from the east every morning. After cultivating it to the great perfection level, mental power can be raised to the limit, only one step away from transforming into divine sense. As for the 9 Treasure Glazed Tile School's 9 Aperture Glazed Heart method, 10,000 years ago, it was only the 7 Aperture Exquisite Heart. It was created by Ning Rongrong after she became a god, based on the sect's original method. It is also a technique that can cultivate mental power to the limit. It's just that in the past, spirit masters on the Douluo did not place much importance on the enhancement of mental power, so no one had targeted these 2 methods before. But now, in order to cultivate divine sense, Shrek and the Body Sect have indeed each shown their prowess to get their hands on these 2 secret techniques. Although their methods differed, in the face of the huge temptation of breaking through to the god level, these worldly rules and sentiments have clearly been temporarily set aside by them. Chapter 47, Hu Yuhao's Crisis. By the shore of the Lake of Life, Lei Chen slowly withdrew his vast perception, a look of realization and amusement appearing on his face. The actions of Shrek Academy and the Body Sect had not exceeded his expectations. In the face of the ultimate temptation of breaking through level 100 and achieving godhood, any so-called sect secrets or past friendships appeared pale and powerless. Muen and Debussy were able to so quickly obtain the purple demon eye and the 9 Aperture Glazed Heart, 2 secret methods that pointed directly to the limits of spiritual power, and chose without hesitation to spread them across the world alongside their innate secret method. This enlightenment and efficiency saved him quite a lot of trouble. Because the spirit master system of the Douluo Plane, no matter how ever-changing the spirit may be, ultimately cannot be separated from the two cornerstones, the physical body and the spirit. The vast majority of spirit masters stuck at a bottleneck and unable to break through are, at their root, either lacking the physical strength to carry more massive spirit power or lacking the spiritual power to control it. Now, their innate secret method provided a grand path to temper the physical body and forge a divine body, while the purple demon eye and the 9-aperture glazed heart completed the method of nurturing spiritual power to its peak. With both paths advancing together, as long as one has sufficient talent and perseverance, the spirit master's future path will no longer have shackles. The so-called bottlenecks will no longer be insurmountable chasms, but merely small thresholds that require patient crossing when accumulation is insufficient. The divide between the mortal and the divine from level 99 to level 100 will also transform into a natural metamorphosis, where success comes when conditions are ripe. When a mortal frame turns into a divine body and mortal consciousness sublimates into divine sense, the conversion of spirit power into divine power becomes a matter of course. The physical body and the spirit are the two wings of cultivation. Only when both wings fly together can one soar through the 9 heavens. Lei Chen spoke softly to himself, quite satisfied with the development trend of the human spirit masters. The change in rules and the pointing out of the path had already sown the seeds of hope. Next, he only needed to wait quietly for more powerhouses to emerge from this fertile soil. In the short term, there was no longer need for his excessive intervention. Since that was the case, his consciousness, like an emperor inspecting his territory, naturally turned toward another important component of the plane, the spirit beasts. His thoughts swept across the vast Stardew Great Forest, sensing the overall flourishing aura of the spirit beast tribes under the nourishment of the golden ancient tree and the lake of life. Especially the imperial auspicious beast Wang Kia, with the assistance of the ice and fire yin-yang well, her cultivation progress was rapid, and the recovery of the Golden Dragon King's origin was faster than expected. However, when his perception swept over that extreme northland covered in eternal wind and snow, a scene occurring there caused a clear look of surprise to instantly surface on Lei Chen's face. In his vision, at the edge of the core circle of the extreme northland, a strange confrontation was playing out. A youth who looked to be only in his teens, with spirit power fluctuations of only level 20, was prostrating on the ice layer shivering. His face was frozen blue and purple, yet his eyes were filled with tension and anticipation. Not far in front of the youth, a giant light shield resembling a silkworm cocoon was temporarily imprisoning a petite figure that emitted a terrifying aura. That was precisely one of the 3 great heavens of the extreme north, the Ice Empress, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. At this moment, although the Ice Empress's movements were restricted by that strange light shield, within her crystal-clear scorpion body, surging ice attribute energy was violently roiling, impacting the light shield and causing violent ripples to spread across its surface. Clearly, this imprisonment could not last long. What Lei Chen noticed even more was that the energy level emitted around the Ice Empress was significantly stronger than that of a common 400,000-year spirit beast, having already reached the level of 490,000 years. This was clearly the benefit brought by the 10,000-year profound ice marrow he had bestowed earlier. While Lei Chen watched the scene, an exasperated spiritual fluctuation spread out from the youth's body, entering the Ice Empress's perception. Bing Bing, listen to me. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. Give up that path of tribulation crossing that is destined to be incredibly difficult. Become this child's second spirit, and we can obtain immortality in another form, exploring the mysteries of the world together. The source of this spiritual fluctuation was none other than the million-year spirit beast hidden within the youth's spiritual sea, the Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. Within the imprisoned Ice Empress's scorpion eyes, which shimmered with diamond light, there was only cold rage and disdain. "Shut up, you stupid worm. Who is your Bing Bing? How dare you use such despicable means to plot against me?" Her response was sharp and filled with killing intent. Immortality, merging with a waste like you to linger on the brink of death, that deserves to be called immortality. Simply laughable. This queen is now favored by the Plane Master, who bestowed divine objects upon me. My cultivation has greatly advanced, and the future path to godhood is promising. Why would I destroy my own future to associate with a stupid worm like you? As for this human brat, the Ice Empress's gaze swept over Hu Yuhao, her eyes looking at him like a bug she could crush at any moment, to dare step into this queen's territory and participate in such a conspiracy. Once I am free, the first thing I will do is use you to sacrifice to my flag. Hu Yuhao was startled by the Ice Empress's undisguised killing intent, and the Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's spiritual fluctuation was also filled with anxiety. Plane Master, what is that? Oh Bingbing, why don't you understand? We spirit beasts cannot cross the heavenly tribulation. Only by attaching ourselves to a human and nurturing them to become a god can we all ascend to heaven together. Seeing that the Tianmeng Ice Silkworm didn't even know what the Plane Master was, the Ice Empress no longer wanted to waste words with him. Her aura climbed to its peak, and the cocoon-like light shield emitted an overburdened crack sound. At the moment it was about to shatter. Lei Chen looked at this scene, which was familiar yet had completely deviated from its original track due to his intervention, and couldn't help but shake his head with a laugh. This kid Hu Yuhao, this luck of his, I really don't know whether to say it's good or bad. He saw clearly that in this current situation, if no external force intervened, in the next moment, the Ice Empress would break free in her rage, and absolutely would not hesitate to obliterate the Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's spiritual consciousness, along with Hu Yuhao, the accomplice. The enraged strike of an extreme North Heaven with 490,000 years of cultivation, let alone a little fellow like Hu Yuhao, who didn't even have a second spirit ring. Even a super Douluo might not necessarily escape unscathed. The current situation was, for Hu Yuhao, almost a certain death scenario with no hope of survival. But such a certain death situation just happened to be seen by Lei Chen, which was actually no accident. Hu Yuhao's body gathered a large amount of the plane's providence, and Lei Chen had never withdrawn it. Although this providence could not directly bestow power, it could guide encounters in the dark, manifesting a silver lining of life in desperate situations. Today's matter was proof of that. Very well, a faint arc curled at the corner of Lei Chen's mouth. Since he had seen it, and since this kid still bore the title of the Child of Fortune after all, he couldn't really let him die so inexplicably in the extreme Northland. With his mind made up, Lei Chen's figure quietly faded by the shore of the Lake of Life. The next moment in the extreme Northland, upon that ice plain where the wind and snow howled and killing intent overflowed, space rippled slightly, and a figure flowing with a faint seven-colored halo descended silently. Chapter 48, Return to the Extreme North, Hu Yuhao's Fortune. Edge of the core circle, extreme Northland. The biting cold wind was like countless ice blades, slicing through the thin air and whipping up a sky full of ice dust. Hu Yuhao lay prone on the hard ice layer. A bone-piercing chill threatened to freeze his blood solid, his teeth chattering uncontrollably. He stared fixedly ahead at the massive, cocoon-shaped barrier of soft white light, his eyes filled with desperate hope. Inside the barrier, the Ice Empress, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, was struggling violently. Her crystalline, art-like scorpion body radiated surging waves of ultimate ice energy that crashed against the barrier walls like furious tides. Under the Ice Empress's full-force assault, intense ripples spread across the barrier's surface, accompanied by an ear-grating asterisk crack asterisk sound. Clear fissures were spreading across it at a visible speed. Number impossible, Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's voice shrieked with disbelief within Hu Yuhao's spiritual sea. Bing Bing's power, how can it be this strong? This energy fluctuation. It's definitely not just 390,000 years. It's probably close to the 500,000-year mark. My shed skin, it can't hold. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's voice was filled with regret. His original plan was based on the Ice Empress's 390,000-year cultivation and her desperate mindset facing the 400,000-year heavenly tribulation. With the toughness of his million-year shed skin, trapping a 390,000-year Ice Empress would have been more than sufficient, giving him ample time for his persuasion work. However, the power the Ice Empress was unleashing now far exceeded his estimates, by nearly 100,000 years. This massive gap made the seal formed by his shed skin perilously fragile. Bing Bing, stop, listen to me, it's a misunderstanding. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm made a final attempt, his spiritual fluctuations brimming with urgency. A misunderstanding, a response, icy to the bone and saturated with killing intent, came from within the barrier. Tianmeng, you despicable worm, how dare you scheme against this king? Once I break free, I will crush you and this human brat to dust. Crack, boom. Finally, when the terrifying power the Ice Empress had accumulated reached its peak, the massive barrier could no longer withstand it. It exploded like shattered glass, countless points of light scattering in all directions. instantly extinguished by the extreme cold. Freed from confinement, the Ice Empress seemed to have grown in size. Her emerald-green scorpion body gleamed with a heart-stopping cold light. The diamond-like tip of her tail pointed directly at Yuhao. An eruption of ultimate cold far more terrifying than before burst forth. A blizzard suddenly took shape around her, transforming into an ice-cold tornado that connected heaven and earth, carrying an aura of utter destruction as it surged toward Yuhao. Before the blizzard even reached him, Yuhao felt as if his very soul was about to freeze. His thoughts slowed to a crawl, his vision filled only with the expanding, deathly expanse of white. "It's over," was the only thought that flashed through Yuhao's mind. "Brother Tianmeng, you've really screwed me this time." At this critical moment, it was as if an invisible hand gently plucked the strings of time and space. The roaring, terrifying blizzard that was about to engulf Yuhao, as if someone had pressed pause, suddenly solidified in midair. The swirling ice crystals, the howling frigid wind, all maintained their motion from the previous instant, yet were eerily frozen in place. Along with them, the Ice Empress's overwhelming killing intent and surging energy fluctuations were also immobilized. The shift from extreme motion to absolute stillness was so abrupt it was suffocating. A flicker of astonishment passed through the Ice Empress's diamond-like eyes. She could sense that the power she had released wasn't being neutralized or dispersed, but was being forcibly imprisoned within this space by a force that was vaster, more fundamental. This power was filled with the will of the entire heaven and earth. Almost instinctively, she immediately withdrew the agitated ice attribute energy around her. Her massive scorpion body lowered slightly, the previous towering rage and killing intent instantly transforming into utmost reverence. "Respected Plane Master, is it your arrival?" Space rippled slightly. A figure clad in simple robes with black hair and black eyes appeared soundlessly between Yuhao and the Ice Empress. It was Lei Chen. A faint, flowing seven-colored halo surrounded him, forming a stark contrast against the pure white of the extreme north. He didn't even glance at the frozen blizzard, his calm gaze simply settling on the Ice Empress. Feeling Lei Chen's gaze upon her, the Ice Empress's posture became even more respectful. Lei Chen gave a slight nod, appraising the Ice Empress, a thread of approval in his tone. "Not bad. In less than a year, your cultivation has risen from 400,000 years to 490,000 years. Your progress during this time has been significant." Hearing this, the Ice Empress hastily replied with humility, "You flatter me, honored one. All of this is solely due to your grace. Without the 10,000-year profound ice marrow you bestowed, relying on my own arduous cultivation, it would have been absolutely impossible to advance nearly 100,000 years in such a short time." She paused briefly, a hint of inquiry in her diamond-like eyes as she asked respectfully, "Might I inquire as to the purpose of your honored self's descent to the extreme Northland this time? If you have any commands, this Ice Emperor will carry them out even at the cost of 10,000 deaths." Lei Chen's gaze remained placid as he spoke indifferently, his voice seeming to merge with this world of ice and snow. "Nothing major. Naturally, it is to once again ensure you and the Snow Empress safely pass the next heavenly tribulation that approaches, and incidentally, to spare this little fellow's life." Spare this little fellow's life. The Ice Empress was taken aback, her gaze involuntarily shifting back to Yuhao, who remained frozen in place, his face devoid of color. She found it extremely difficult to comprehend why this profound and inscrutable Plane Master would specifically intervene for this human youth who, in her view, possessed pitifully low spirit power and unremarkable aptitude. The Ice Empress focused her spirit, carefully sensing Yuhao, trying to discern any special qualities he might possess. However, no matter how she probed, aside from sensing that the boy's spiritual power seemed slightly stronger than spirit masters of his rank, and that his lifeblood was nearly frozen solid by the ultimate cold, she could detect nothing else worthy of the Plane Master's personal attention. That pitifully weak level 20 spirit power was, in the eyes of an existence like the Ice Empress, no different from an ant. Why would the honored one want to spare him? Could it be? The Ice Empress's heart was filled with doubt, but she dared not ask further. The will of the Plane Master was not something she could presume to fathom. Under the Ice Empress's scrutinizing and perplexed gaze, Yuhao felt his entire body go rigid, unable to move even a fingertip. The extreme terror of having just brushed shoulders with death had not yet dissipated. His heart pounded wildly in his chest, almost leaping out of his throat. He had thought death was certain. In the face of that world-obliterating blizzard, he had been as insignificant as a speck of dust. Yet this sudden reversal, this mysterious powerhouse whom the Ice Empress reverently addressed as Plane Master, had saved him with such casual ease. Although Hua Yuhao didn't fully understand what Plane Master truly signified, the attitude displayed by the Ice Empress made it crystal clear. This seemingly ordinary black-haired man before him was actually a supreme existence, far above the three great heavens of the extreme north, beyond his imagination. Basic courtesy compelled Hua Yuhao to forcefully suppress the tempest of shock in his heart. With a voice trembling slightly from the cold, he expressed his gratitude to Lei Chen. Thank you, Senior, for saving my life. Chapter 49, Nurturing the Child of Fortune. Faced with Hua Yuhao's trembling words of thanks, chilled by the cold, Lei Chen responded with a calm smile. He said nothing more, simply raising his right hand casually and pointing a finger gently at Hua Yuhao. Instantly, a soft, warm, multicolored light barrier materialized out of thin air, enveloping Hua Yuhao completely. Though seemingly fragile, the barrier possessed a formidable power that seemed to isolate everything. The extreme cold of the extreme north land, capable of freezing and cracking metal, was instantly blocked out. His nearly frozen limbs and body rapidly warmed. Hua Yuhao felt an indescribable warmth envelop him, as if he had stepped from a harsh winter into a warm spring in an instant. He immediately understood that this was, once again, the mysterious, Plane Master Senior lending a hand. Thank you, Senior, I've troubled you again. Hua Yuhao hurriedly bowed once more. Though his voice still carried a slight tremor, it was no longer strained, filled instead with sincere gratitude. This time Lei Chen did not acknowledge Hua Yuhao's thanks. His deep, starry eyes rested on the youth as thoughts raced through his mind. As the supreme being presiding over this plane, Lei Chen naturally knew the source of the extraordinary, vast fortune that clung to Hua Yuhao. This was the result of the sea god Tang San, far away in the divine realm, acting on his own selfish motives. By keeping his god-level relatives stranded in the Douluo Plane, he had catalyzed this outcome. The purpose was to make the Douluo Plane instinctively sense a threat. To eliminate that threat, the plane would converge its fortune onto a single individual, giving birth to a child of fortune. Now, with Tang Hao and Yin having fled the Douluo Plane, Tai Tan and Niu Tian having perished, and Tang San's divine sense imprint erased, the greatest threat to the plane had been removed by Lei Chen himself. Therefore, from the plane's own perspective, the existence value of Hua Yuhao, this child of fortune, had greatly diminished. If Lei Chen wished, a single thought could disperse the fortune gathered upon him, returning him to mediocrity. So should he disperse this fortune? A flicker of consideration passed through Lei Chen's mind. His gaze pierced through Hua Yuhao's body, seeing the million-year spirit beast, Tianmeng I Silkworm, still shivering within his spiritual sea. He also saw Hua Yuhao's spiritual foundation, transformed by the Ice Silkworm's origin power, possessing potential far exceeding that of ordinary people. He received the sacrifice of a million-year spirit beast. His foundation is set, his potential immense. To disperse his fortune now would be like discarding an uncut jade halfway, a true pity. Lei Chen shook his head slightly, dismissing the idea. Moreover, if his fortune is maintained and guided correctly, with his character and opportunities, it is not impossible for him to create his own god position in the future. For the plane, the benefits would far outweigh the drawbacks. Having weighed the pros and cons, Lei Chen had reached a decision. Not only would he not disperse this fortune, he would go with the flow, give him an extra push, accelerating his growth. However, the direction of that growth must be guided by him, the Plane Master. With his mind made up, Lei Chen looked at Hua Yuhao, who still stood respectfully, his eyes filled with confusion and anticipation. He spoke slowly, his voice calm yet carrying an indisputable authority. You know propriety and observe etiquette. Your character is acceptable. I am fully aware of your reason for coming to the extreme north land. His gaze seemed to sweep inadvertently over Hua Yuhao's Danshan energy sea, where a nascent, ice attribute spirit framework slept, constructed by the Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's power, possessing a shell but no soul. You merely wish to bestow a soul upon this second ice attribute spirit of yours, transforming it into a true top-tier spirit. This matter is easily accomplished. Before his words faded, Lei Chen raised his hand again. A point of multicolored light, seemingly containing the essence of life's creation, swirled around his fingertip as he gently pointed towards the space between Hua Yuhao's eyebrows. Hua Yuhao felt a cool sensation between his brows as an indescribably vast will instantly flooded into his spiritual sea. It was not an attack, but a higher-level form of guidance and bestowal. He clearly saw his previously hollow ice attribute spirit framework, infused with the multicolored light, as if being imbued with a true soul and laws. The form of the spirit began to undergo a profound transformation. It no longer mimicked a specific spirit beast, but gradually coalesced into the purest, most fundamental collection of ice elements. An aura of ultimate ice, far more refined and profound than before, emanated from the depths of the spirit, beginning to resonate with his own spirit power. Within mere moments, Hua Yuhao's second spirit had been completely reborn, evolving from an empty shell into a pure elemental spirit, ice. Its quality was now completely on par with top-tier ice attribute beast spirits like the Ice Jade Scorpion, directly pointing to the very origin of ice laws. This is, Hua Yuhao inwardly observed the brand new spirit, radiating with a brilliant blue light as if composed of countless icy runes. He was so excited he could barely speak. He could feel that this spirit possessed limitless potential for growth. This miraculous feat also drew a flicker of astonishment in the diamond-like eyes of the Snow Empress, who stood quietly nearby. Directly bestowing a spirit with a soul and elevating it to the level of elemental origin, was this the capability of the Plane Master? However, Lei Chen's gifts were not finished. With a turn of his wrist, a peculiar immortal herb appeared in his palm. This herb was entirely jade green, its leaves carved like emerald. Most strange was a dewdrop-like liquid cradled in the center of its leaves, shimmering with an autumn-water radiance as it rolled. "This is the autumn dew-gazing herb," Lei Chen said as, under his control, the herb floated towards Hua Yuhao. "Your spirit is the eyes, falling within the category of body martial soul. Consuming it will aid your spirit eye's spirit in undergoing a second awakening. Both your spiritual power and visual abilities will experience a qualitative leap." Hua Yuhao was thoroughly stunned. With trembling hands, he received the herb emitting a cool aura, feeling as if everything he had experienced today was like a dream. First, nearly killed by the Snow Empress, then saved by the Plane Master, and now receiving unimaginably great opportunities in succession. He opened his mouth, wanting to express his thanks, but found any words pale and weak at this moment. He could only bow his head deeply once more, choking out, "Senior, this junior, how could someone like me be worthy of such generous gifts from you? I will never forget this kindness and virtue for all eternity." Lei Chen said indifferent, "The opportunity has been placed in your hands. Whether you can grasp it depends on yourself. I hope you will cultivate diligently in the future, not let down this bestowed fortune, nor let down this plane." As he spoke, he flicked his finger once more. A thin stream of multicolored light shot out, silently merging into the back of Hua Yuhao's right hand. It formed a complex, profound mark before fading from sight. This mark will allow you to freely enter and exit the core areas of all spirit beast habitats in the future, such as the Stardew Great Forest and the extreme North Land. No spirit beast will attack you. When you need a spirit ring, you can use this mark to find a suitable spirit beast and perform an imprinting. The one surprise after another had left Hua Yuhao somewhat numbness. Stroking his slightly warm hand, he could only repeat, "Yes, this junior understands. Thank you, senior. Thank you, senior." Lei Chen gave a slight nod, then turned his gaze to the Snow Empress standing respectfully nearby. He instructed, "Snow Empress, since you are now free, transcribe 2 suitable ice attribute soul skills for this youth. After the imprinting is complete, let him leave on his own. Then come find me at my place of seclusion." With those words, Lei Chen's figure seemed to meld into the wind and snow, quietly fading and disappearing without leaving the slightest trace, as if he had never been there. Only an excited Hua Yuhao remained on the spot, along with the Snow Empress with complex emotions, and within Hua Yuhao's spiritual sea, the Tianmeng Eye Silkworm, who had finally relaxed and begun its incessant chatter once more. Chapter 50, Reunion with the Snow Empress, breaking through 800,000 years. After arranging matters for Hua Yuhao, Lei Chen no longer lingered. His gaze swept over the still agitated youth and the Ice Empress with a complex expression. His figure then faded away as if merging with the wind, vanishing completely into the blizzard the next moment. Deep within the core region of the extreme Northland, a palace was constructed from eternal, unmelting, profound ice. The interior of the palace was vast and silent. Only in the center was a bed, carved entirely from 10,000-year-cold ice jade marrow, emitting pure, extreme ice attribute energy and a bone-chilling cold. The Snow Empress sat upright on the cold ice jade marrow bed. Her eyes were slightly closed, her peerlessly beautiful face as cold and pure as snow. A visible vortex of icy blue energy swirled around her, breathing in and out the ultimate cold of heaven and earth. At this moment, she was in deep meditation, refining her cultivation. Her aura was profound and vast. Suddenly, a faint yet exceptionally clear spatial ripple, like a pebble dropped into a still lake, spread through the absolute silence of the ice palace. This ripple was not a covert infiltration, but carried an air of announcement, naturally declaring the arrival of the visitor. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. The Snow Empress's long eyelashes trembled slightly as she instantly awoke from her deep meditation. She abruptly opened her icy blue eyes. A flicker of displeasure and wariness at being disturbed flashed within them first. But when her gaze caught the figure that had appeared silently at the center of the palace, its form flowing with a faint, multicolored halo, that displeasure instantly turned into astonishment, then transformed into unconcealable joy. She immediately rose from the cold ice jade marrow bed, moved with light, graceful steps, quickly approached and respectfully bowed to Lei Chen. Her voice was ethereal and pleasant, carrying a trace of barely detectable excitement. "Senior, what brings you here?" Lei Chen smiled, his gaze gentle as it fell upon the Snow Empress, giving a slight nod. In his perception, the Snow Empress's current aura was far stronger than it had been over half a year ago. That vast ice attribute energy had already condensed to a tangible level, surging unceasingly within her body, having clearly reached the terrifying level of 790,000 years. "I am here, naturally, to protect you and the Ice Empress Sa safely through the next heavenly tribulation that is soon to come." Lei Chen spoke calmly, stating his purpose. Upon hearing this, a glimmer of gratitude flashed in the Snow Empress's icy blue eyes, and she bowed again. "Thank you, Senior, for your concern. It is truly our great fortune that Binger and I can receive your protection." She paused slightly, feeling the surging power within her, her tone carrying sincere gratitude. If not for Senior's generous gift of the divine object, the 10,000-year profound ice marrow, my cultivation would have had no possibility of reaching this level in such a short span of over half a year. Lei Chen nodded slightly, unsurprised by this. The 10,000-year profound ice marrow was a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. Its effect on ice attribute spirit beasts could be called heaven-defying. His gaze swept over the Snow Empress, his tone carrying a hint of praise. "An increase of nearly 100,000 years in cultivation. The speed is not slow. It seems you did not rush for quick success, but understand the principle of gradual, steady progress." Hearing Lei Chen mention this, a serious look appeared on the Snow Empress's peerlessly beautiful face as she explained. "Senior is wise. Although the energy of the 10,000-year profound ice marrow is vast, we deeply understand that in the path of cultivation, a solid foundation is paramount. Therefore, after discussing with Binger, we set a rule. After refining and absorbing one piece of 10,000-year profound ice marrow, increasing cultivation by roughly 10,000 years, we must spend at least 1 month meticulously tempering and stabilizing the newly gained power. Only after the foundation is completely solid will we continue refining the next piece." Precisely because of this, over this past half year, we have each refined 10 pieces of profound ice marrow, and our cultivation has only increased by 100,000 years. If we disregarded our foundation and refined a large amount in a short time, the speed might be faster, but it would likely sow the seeds of endless future calamity. "Excellent." Hearing the Snow Empress's words, the smile on Lei Chen's face deepened a few degrees. "Not arrogant, not impatient, holding fast to your true heart. It is rare that you possess such insight and deeply understand the importance of consolidating your foundation. Acting in this manner is the only way to avoid repeating the mistake of that Tianmeng Eye silkworm. The Tianmeng Eye silkworm only knew how to devour, not how to refine. It possessed the quantity of a million-year cultivation, but lacked the matching quality. As a result, its combat power was weak, not even comparable to an ordinary 100,000-year spirit beast. It ultimately fell to a lower tier. It is excellent that you understand this principle." Receiving the personal affirmation of the Plane Master, a warmth and joy arose in the Snow Empress's heart. Her cold, pure face seemed to soften as if ice and snow were melting. She then inquired respectfully, "Thank you for your recognition, Senior. To be frank with you, Senior, it has been nearly a month since my last refinement of the 10,000-year profound ice marrow. The newly gained cultivation has been completely stabilized. My current state is at its peak, and I am ready at any time to refine the next piece and assault the barrier of 800,000 years. Does Senior think I should begin now?" Lei Chen nodded, his tone calm yet carrying an unquestionable sense of support. "Since all preparations are complete, then begin now. With me here to guard you, you need only focus on your breakthrough. There is no need to worry about the heavenly tribulation. Yes, I will trouble you, Senior. The Snow Empress's heart settled greatly. She hesitated no longer. With a flip of her slender hand, a prismatic crystal, entirely translucent and emitting a terrifying cold, appeared in her palm. It was precisely the supreme treasure that could drive countless ice attribute spirit beasts mad, the 10,000-year profound ice marrow. She sat cross-legged back on the cold ice jade marrow bed, placed the profound ice marrow in front of her, formed hand seals, and her pure ice attribute spirit power wrapped around the profound ice marrow like threads, getting the vast, ocean-like energy within to surge into her body like rivers flowing to the sea. As the energy poured in, the aura around the Snow Empress began to climb at a visible speed. The temperature inside the ice palace plummeted sharply. Even the air seemed on the verge of freezing. Thick frost began to condense on the walls and floor, continuously thickening. Her snow-white hair, long and pure, stirred without wind, emitting a faint, radiant glow. Under the impact of the vast energy, her peerlessly beautiful face appeared even more sacred and majestic. Time passed bit by bit. The spirit power within the Snow Empress's body surged like raging tides, constantly battering against that intangible barrier. 800,000 years is an extremely important threshold for spirit beasts. It signifies drawing closer to the ultimate goal of 1,000,000 years to become a god, and also means the power of the next heavenly tribulation will increase exponentially. Finally, at a certain moment, the Snow Empress's delicate frame trembled slightly. A faint sound of something shattering seemed to come from within her body. The next instant, an ultimate cold far more vast and terrifying than before, like an ancient ice-field behemoth suddenly awakening, erupted from her body with a roar. Boom! The entire ice palace shook violently. The eternal ice layer enveloping the palace groaned under the strain. The Snow Empress abruptly opened her eyes, icy blue divine light bursting forth from her pupils, shooting straight towards the palace ceiling. Her aura at this moment completed a qualitative leap. It had thoroughly shattered the shackles of 790,000 years and steadily stepped into the new realm of 800,000 years. That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to AI Otaku Studio for more stories. Check out my other channel, Infinite Novel Audio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.